And we're live an hour late. Bang on. It's all right. People are used to things being delayed around here. People are used to things being delayed around here.
Oh, I didn't mute the
People are
stream.
used to
It's now
things
going to
being
echo
delayed
for
around
everyone.
here. This is the professionalism that we are against. Yeah, I'm shit at this. All right. It's been established. But so we're talking about a very important topic here that is something I've been meaning to get to for a while. Actually, to be fair, thinking about it, can I shape this so the mouth thing's a bit bigger? There we go. I'm not very good at shaping these things up. I just want to make it a little visually distinct because there's space. And so we're talking about a really important discussion here where it's for a long time going. And I mean, we saw it at its worst with MRN last year when people were treading over eggshells for dengists to be more involved, to not be. I need to get my mic in a more. Okay, so I'm still audible like this, but you can see my hands to tread on eggshells, to not be a sectarian towards dengists, which I'm sure my Maoist compadres would agree with me is ridiculous because uh, dengists aren't communists, they are fascists. It's hard to understand, but when you follow an empire that is abusing its own people in the most oppressive of fashions that you would see in Britain in the late 1800s, early 1900s, or America around the same time as well, the Industrial Revolution, where kids were being worked in factories level shit, sweatshops, uh, conglomerative and slum living arrangements building up because of overextensive work, mass amounts of suicidal issues because of over abusive and cheap paying work, the contradictions of the the development of capitalism, the development of liberalism. These things are conscientious to it, but so there's a construct of fear that has been built around making these criticisms of China by dengists and Chinese apologists, people who might not be dengists, they might not even follow the ideology, they might even see China as capitalist and even imperialist, but they are apologetic towards it and treat it with a softer hand because somehow it's different. And anyone who criticizes it and makes the harsh criticisms where we're talking of cultural genocide against the many of the different national groups that exist in China. There's no Chinese one nation. There's 53 nations to China, 53 distinct national peoples, and probably even more than that because that's a number that's from the Cold War. And I'm not an anthropologist. Don't quote me. But there's over 50 national peoples of China. They're not all just Chinese. They're from Turkish to Han to Mongolian to loads of different groups, Indo-Chinese peoples and other different groups. They have and there's a mass amount of different religious, cultural views, languages that are very important to these peoples. And when we're not allowed to go and talk about how China's going around and saying that there's one distinct Chinese history and one distinct Chinese language, and we're not allowed to go about and look at the racism that they put towards people who are of Islamic Turkic descent in the west of China, the way that they shift minorities from the west of China into the east of China to be worked as cheap labor force. We're not allowed to talk about that because then we get assigned to the US shit. When I don't know if people know, the US, they're saying murder genocide. They're not going on about what I've just gone on about. They're saying murder genocide, but then we're getting equated to that. And so this equation to US fascist propaganda makes people afraid to make these criticisms, makes people afraid to even make the light criticisms of China. It creates this massive racist construct that actually is oppressive towards the Chinese people. Because it's white people that are having the problem. It's not Chinese people saying this. So it's white people in fucking middle class positions who are having a hissy fit because we're criticizing not the oppression of African people and the oppression of quote Chinese end quote people, because there's no such thing as a Chinese people. The peoples that are of China. I always say this. It was a mistake that they ever kept the name China and changed the definition. Like China originally means Middle Kingdom. It's not a term that needed to be kept, but they kept it and they changed the definition. It was part of the way of sort of revolutionizing the aspect of China, and it made sense if they could have destroyed the Han chauvinism. But now the Han chauvinism has reemerged. It has a China to reemerge itself in a very ding mentality, very colonial mentality, and they seem to have been continuing the ROC's note taking from the British Empire and the American Empire. Dr. Maupin wants China to bail out Wall Street again. Well, people don't seem to know this. 2008, China bailed out the US. But that's also how China built up its empire, by building up a gold reserve and returning to a harder form of fiat currency. So the discussion points that we're going to be going through here is getting at how the tactics of Dengists and Chinese apologists to make it impossible to talk about China is not only ridiculous and discriminatory in the way that they open themselves up. No one should be associating comrades to US fascists because they brought up a criticism that you don't like. Counter that criticism. Don't fucking equate anyone to a fucking fascist unless you have actual definitive points to equate them to a fascist. You have to be dialectically materialist about the situation that we're engaging with. But also, we really want to drive home that it is racist towards the Chinese people to deny the absolute truth of what is going on in China against these people and the oppression that's being brought against them. You know, feel free to take the stage.
Yep, I agree there. I guess it depends on what points we want to go into regarding it. Because there's a lot of points, whether it's with Dangus or with the non-Dangus, anybody that's afraid, but
Yeah, there's different angles to how it's played. Because you get the people that will straight up do a lesser of two evils with you and then try and blag you that they're not, and they see it all as the same problem. But
right.
when you use emphatic language to describe imperialist actions of the US, like if I called the US Zionist lovers, you wouldn't hear a peep out of them. China gets a similar relationship with Israel. I call the Chinese government is Zionist lovers, and all of a sudden that's a problem.
Amazing.
It's contradictory. It's you know, and of course they are lovers of it because they're profiting off it. Like I have to point that out. Capitalism, if it's profiting off something, they love it. That's what capitalists love. Petty bourgeoisie are the more crafty thinkers of capitalism. Capitalists are very much profit margin, profit margin, profit margin. That's all they give a shit about. If they had to kill people to do it, they kill people to do it. They don't care. They don't think about it. They're not that human anymore. They're in a different world. Petty bourgeoisie, whether it's petty bourgeois capitalists, you know, the small business owner clique and all that lot, or it's petty bourgeois aristocrats, they all are very much in the same line in this, that they think differently to the bourgeoisie. Like the bourgeoisie doesn't define a capitalist. The bourgeoisie is a form of capitalist. Petty bourgeoisie is a form of aristocrat that also incorporates smaller capitalists. It is the continuation of the feudal aristocracy. For those that aren't aware, the labor aristocracy is actually different. It's a different formulation that is uh, got feudal aristocrats that have fallen into that class, but most of the labor aristocracy actually come from the working class, and the labor aristocracy is a formulation that is sort of like, what would be the word? Like they're coupled to the petty bourgeoisie, their class interests, the way they cement themselves, they're coupled to the petty
Right.
bourgeoisie.
Right. They're beholden to it.
That's the
Right.
one.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Like, are you trying to tell me that it's not a good thing that China has a rising middle class there?
These are the same people that are telling us that the middle class is dead in the first world.
Right. Yeah, there's no labor aristocracy in America anymore
Yeah,
because
they all left. They all went to China.
yeah. Like that's what they literally use.
That is actually what a lot
Or
of people do, even non-communist people. When all of a sudden you keep hearing about these Americans that have become dengists after they've been to
right,
China. They
right.
got a very well-paying job as an English teacher.
Oh,
While
I've
the
heard about
Chinese
that a lot.
workers that they're so supportive of work for fucking less than $1 an hour.
Right. Um, I've
I've
actually
literally
seen. Oh, you could go.
go ahead. You sure?
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you. I've literally seen some of them on Facebook say, "Comrade Chi, come liberate us."
Oh man, that's
Oh
depressing.
God.
That's like the
I'm
people
not
in
lying.
America back in the fucking 30s that were asking for Adolf Hitler to come rescue them.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I've seen some Dangus now. They're bragging about how home ownership is going up in China compared to the United States.
I I don't
And they're
like, I'm a renter, so
right, but they're using this as a good thing. They're using this as proof that like yeah, socialism works in China. Um, and this is on top of
what
while they're
people are
promoting.
getting £200,000 or whatever the fuck it costs to buy a house. So it's great. We live in a system where to buy a house you got to get a lot of money, and there's more middle class people who are able to get a lot of money, likely through a bank loan. And has
Right,
anyone here ever tried to get a bank loan before?
not me. I couldn't get one if I wanted to.
You have to have very, very good working statistics to get one. Like you have to be
Yeah.
in a stable job and doing well with yourself. It can even be like that just for setting up an overdraft.
Hmm. Yep. I don't even have like a real bank. Like sure, I got the online PayPal or whatever, but like I don't even have a real bank since for over 2 years now. Um, I owe like $100 to Wells Fargo. I'll just say that. Screw them.
Wells Fargo, oh man, they got bailed out. Like you should get bailed out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they were bailed
Um,
out by Trump fucking as well recently. So I don't even have to go on about Obama's bailing out of Wells Fargo and go on about Trump's bailing out of Wells Fargo.
right. Yeah.
$5 trillion to the biggest bourgeoisie, plus $1 trillion a day to the fucking what's it, finance sector. $1 trillion a day during the coronavirus. Or was it a billion?
Yeah.
I think it was 5 trillion and then $1 billion a day. I might be getting it mixed up, but I swear I heard fucking Jimmy Dore say $1 trillion a day.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but it was a lot of fucking money. Let's just put it that way. A lot of fucking money going to the bourgeoisie during the coronavirus, and everyone else got fucking two
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah. Well, I got mine like 18 months late. It's a long story. So yeah.
Well, at least you
Um
didn't. At least you didn't starve to death. Coronavirus.
right.
Saving lives is not on the eventual list. I mean, the NHS went around forcing people in who were disabled, going around pressuring them to sign do not resuscitate orders.
Right. And of course, now of course China's having like real estate issues. With the whole what's that company is called where like they're defaulting. I gotta look it up again.
The big Chinese estate conglomerate that's collapsing.
Right, yeah.
But if China's socialist, why is it going through economic crashes?
Right.
That's not normal for socialism. The only time I remember a true socialist system going through an economic crash was World War II, and I wonder why that happened.
Right. And today Airbnb just announced that they're going to pull out of China because they want to save money, I guess, or whatever. But but the fact that like Airbnb was there for like years is troubling, in my opinion.
They didn't they move it from 2050 to 2075 or some shit? Like
Oh yeah, you mean when they're gonna
do
come back to
socialism.
socialism? Right. I've seen some dangas, believe it or not. Like I've seen them say that, well, China's doing the NEP. This is an interesting point because they're saying, oh, they're doing the NEP and like Lenin, the new economic
Billionaires.
policy. Yeah, they try to compare it to Lenin,
Lenin
but it's like,
specifically said to have the capitalists as small as possible. So I don't know how people allow, like, 'cause so many Marxist Leninists just allow them to push this, and even will push it themselves. People who will turn around and say they don't like and disagree with Dengism will turn around and defend that it's in an NEP at the same time. And that is the sus
right,
ones. Those people know what the fuck they're doing and know what they're pushing. The
right,
CPGBMLs like this, they don't subscribe to Dengism specifically, but they turn around and defend China as socialist all the time and push its shit.
right.
Fascists are crafty. You gotta be careful with them. And not even for the fucking transphobic shit, and the transphobic shit that they do is bad. Just because of how dodgy they are, I find the CPGBML to be third position. And well, to be honest, they literally support the Workers' Party of Britain that has the leader who turned around and said, "In the words of Tony Blair, I am third way." Oh, that wasn't bad, that wasn't it? I nearly got George
Yeah,
Galloway down there.
yeah. Well, China's trying to cut their mortgages now, the mortgage rate. Like not the actual mortgage, like they're trying to lower it to prevent a crash. Um, but I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna work out.
I mean, calling yourself third way, already cringe. But then to
Right.
do so comparing yourself to motherfucking Tony Blair, the guy that he is
Um,
repped as being the enemy of for all his fucking political career of the last 20 years.
right.
And, like, in the words of Tony Blair, I am third way. Literally, just after he's turned around and gone, China is the perfect socialism for me. He likes the fact that it's part socialist, part capitalist. He literally defined it as third position without fucking thinking about it.
Right.
And saw it in a static motion as socialist. It's a very and this comes into the way I've heard what's it a Chinese Canadian who's a Dengist defining it to me, where they said China doesn't see socialism as an economic system, as a socio-economic structure. They see socialism as a concept,
Amazing.
which is very
Wow.
similar to how Hitler perceives socialism as a social concept for how we look at society. Basically, like the American nuclear family period and the big conservative era of America, where what's it? I could probably define it better looking at Britain. To be fair, um, it's like the big empire period of the late 1800s, early 1900s of Britain, with the social solidarity of imperialism. Um, Sort of like the era where War of the Worlds was written. Because if anyone knows the trivia of War of the Worlds, War of the Worlds was written as a way to try and show British people what they're doing to everyone else. make
Right.
them the oppressed people. And you can see it's doused in Victorian humanism because the perception is that Britain would be oppressed by like an alien invader. That would be the comparison between us invading other people. So that's very chauvinistic. We're like technologically advanced beyond belief compared to everyone else. Is that really the case? Like that was very racist. But the story itself is supposed to be reflective of, being colonized by this unknown threat, which is also racist towards history because the Africans did know who we were. Actually, we had a relationship with them for years. Hey, red salute, Rob. How you doing, my brother?
Something.
Uh, uh, Robbie Rich is in the chat, my G.
Oh, I see.
Real quick.
So I mean, it sort of the really interesting thing with the way that everyone is so tight knit on China is it's like they don't want to accept that it is as bad. They can pull the whole, although they don't have slaves. Well, actually, there was a Chinese capitalist that was literally treating his African workers like slaves, so I was a bit sus on that one. But they don't have a slave empire like America and Britain and France did, or they don't have they don't have traditional colonies like Britain did all over the place. Which I don't know if anyone knows. That was the same argument that the Roosevelt and a lot of other Americanists were using, in the 30s and the 20s against the British. Oh, America doesn't have a mass colony empire, so it's better than the British, which is quite ironic because America is a colony, and it's the same with China. That's ironic. Doesn't have colonies. The Han don't have colonies. What the fuck is the rest of China?
Right.
But colonies? That would be like turning around and saying Britain has no colonies anymore. What is Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Cymru and Cornwall? The Channel Islands. What's the Isle of Wight? What's Gibraltar?
And the French.
I think the only one you could say that is allowed is the island off the coast of Argentina because it was not inhabited. Like that's sort of anyone's game, really. But I say it should go to Argentina because it's fucking next to them. Like I understand that there is an argument to be said that no one inhabited the island, but still, it's next to Argentina. Just give it to them. It's like I've heard that Argentina doesn't even want the island anymore, though, so it is a bit complicated.
No, they do want it. Recently there's a spat with the new Argentina president. But it could just be a
oh
domestic...
yeah, because he's arming up, any
right.
Well, like I say, they should have it. Let them have it. Britain is a funny empire where we like to turn around and do the unclaimed land shit. No, you're not coming through. You might need to leave and rejoin.
Oh, me?
No. Lumpen-Maoist.
Oh, I see.
Over to you.
We can hear you.
You do hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you now.
Well, I was going to add that I've got arguments with Dangus, like a white Dangus in America. And they'll say to me how, oh, you're from here, and do you think you know better than Chinese people how to build socialism? And no, let me finish. No, I add this. Okay, the Philippines, the Filipino people, the Filipino communists have said China's imperial power encroaching on Filipino territorial waters, and all that. And I'll say to them, you're from the U.S. like I am. Do you think you know better than the Filipino people, their conditions and imperialism they're facing? I think it's really quiet.
Well, I mean, did you see what Has did to try and turn around and say that the Filipinos were like U.S. assets?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, fucking B-liberal called them jungle trots, Filipino Maoists.
Jungle trots, which is a racial slur used against fucking
That's what B-liberal called them,
communists.
Filipino Maoist.
Jungle trot has been used against a lot of third world communists in South Asia.
Yep,
So
an ex-white
so B
Indian
level
Maoist.
wants to push like that they're even though they're a middle class person in Canada, that because they come from a demographic that if you were over in India you probably would be oppressed, that they are equative to those people, but then are going to use a slur like jungle trot. You see in the mix. There's no actual respect and solidarity for those people in them nations.
Hey,
And
It actually called the next whites of India and the Maoists in the Philippines.
I mean, also a warning for people when looking to the third world. India is a complicated nation. It was an empire. It was an imperial construct of Britain, and so what the British did is they took a system that had just been ended in India by the Hindi. They just written the outlawing of the caste system when Britain came along, and they brought the caste system back in. So how does a caste system work? Well, there is a lot of people who are literal slaves. There are people who are then somewhat workers. Do you know what there is also in a caste system? People at the top. An example would be the Brahmin. They're an example of people who would be seen as, quote, white Indians, end quote. Because of their
right.
class
Well,
position
that was
in a
too.
caste system. The caste system of India didn't legally end until 1950 something. And it didn't, it's basically not culturally ended. It's still about today. Like the class system mirrors the way that the caste was racist. And trust me, the eugenic-minded British extensified the racism of this system in the 1800s. They made it worse. Got to think,
Yeah, those
people
two
just have
Indians
this
from
they have this plain
CPGBML.
blank-minded understanding of the third world, that just third world people, and they just look at the third world people as all one group. It's not how it works. Compradors exist. Sorry, Lumberkill, you wanted to say something?
I'm saying, you know those two Indians that Caleb has on from CPGBML, aren't they Brahmins?
I do believe Jyoti is Brahmin. I don't know about Arthur. I don't think he's Brahmin. I think he's from a different caste.
That is right.
But Jyoti's as Brahmin as they come, from what I can tell. That's what I had another comrade come to the conclusion of. It's not just my own perspective, because we've been trying to figure out the CPGPML for a long time, both when I was in the RCG and as I've come to work with Maoist comrades in Britain. And the RCG is problematic. They're not to be trusted at all. And Arthur Bra, the ex-leader of the party, who it's now his wife who runs it, and his sons all all hold the top positions. It's a very suspicious party. He turned around and went to say something that wouldn't actually have been problematic at first. He said, I wouldn't mind if revolution happened first in Europe. But then he stopped himself. Or if revolution was centered in Europe, if it happened there first. Which I don't think anyone would mind. I don't think anyone really cares where revolution starts. Like, let it start, let it bring peace to the world. But he turned around and stopped himself and said, I don't mind if the world is Eurocentric, just depending on what the values of that Eurocentric world are. So he's saying he doesn't mind if
Gee,
things are perspectivized from the first worldist perspective. Just so that they're
wow.
communistic, which is just it's reductive. It's Euro communism. He's pushing what the CPGPML was supposed to rise against, which is Euro communism. Keep in mind, these
Right.
communists left India in the 70s. Athol Bra and Jyoti Bra. When the revolution started. Such communists. Yep, true. Half my family is from Northeast Tennessee. I just had someone tell me. Uh, I just had someone tell me today that the Tennessee lawmaking being homeless on public property a felony is quote based. And,
True. It is true.
I wanted to ask, 'cause this is another like dangerous talking point, or
no,
just in general.
this is just casual labor aristocratic. As the next statement says, these aristocrats are shameless. Jesus.
And they basically like when you brought up like the whole third way and all that, or you describe China's economy, like they'll say, "Oh no, that's just what do they call it? Oh, that's socialism with
Chinese
Chinese
characteristic.
characteristics." And like, but they don't even explain what that means at all. Like, what does that even mean?
So I
Socialism.
through prodding the true because I know that the semantic shift in the definition of patriotism has patriotism meaning for the state construct that exists because of how Britain changed what patriotism means through patriotism to the
Mhm.
crown. The I figured out, at least through in my engagements with a few of these pat socks, is that they're using patriotism in the French definition, where it is synonymous to nationalism. So when they say patriotic socialist, they're saying national socialist.
Absolutely, I agree.
That's a dog whistle. That is a smart dog whistle. Like I gotta commend them on that one. Like that took me. I didn't figure it out straight away. Like it just seemed everyone was synonymizing it anyway because it was funny to do that. But like actually coming to figure it, they're using a smart dog whistle. They're using the French definition of the 16th century, where patriotism literally just means nationalism.
Right. And then of course one of the other things they'll do is like they'll say, "Oh, patriotism and for the people," type of thing, and it makes you
That's
wonder,
nationalism. Nationalism is for the people. Patriotism is for the state.
right,
At least in English. Like maybe it's different in French still, but I know in English patriotism is for the state.
right, but it makes you wonder what the past socks really mean by that. And it could be more double meaning, I guess, for them.
They're spinning it because they want to make patriotism what nationalism is. It's a way of making the dog whistles completely distinct. So they're separating nationalism as a different definitive. They're moving them around. So rather than just saying outright that patriotism is nationalism, they're redefining nationalism as patriotism and patriotism as nationalism. It's double think.
Right.
George Orwell,
Talking
he wrote
about.
instructions for these people. He's a fucking cunt. Like literally, like everyone says, 1984 is a shit book. It's like no, it's a good book for abusers, for people who are using this shit to mess with people. Be liberal, being anti-Asian. What a shocker! In case you were wondering, I'm being sarcastic. Everyone has to. It's good to write that because no one can tell with my tone either.
Yeah. One thing the past talks are cheering on about China recently is that I think the Chinese media or whatever, I think it was a spokesman. I'll try to look it up right now. But they said they were like commemorating, saying good stuff about Lincoln. And so like, I hate this. I just completely hate it because they're pushing this cult of personality for Lincoln. And it's like, why does China have to jump in and promote that? You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I mean like the way that the way that China is treated as this golden goose in general as well though, like think about it. So
Right.
what's really annoying is that we're dealing with a nation that works people in sweatshops. And I mean I
Yeah.
remember like I was fucking back when I was doing stuff with Lumpen Radio, um revolutionary Lumpen Radio, they um they had a Chinese guy on and he turned around and said there was no sweatshops in China. I was like, what the fuck are you going on about? Like, I lost my shit a bit.
God.
And I got called a xenophobe. And I'm like, that's not xenophobic. What you mean? I got what? Because I lost my shit. Because this guy's lying about something that's a blatant, obvious fact about China. They have fucking sweatshops. Like, am I
And
fucking
suicide.
imagining things or something? Did I fucking shit out of the fucking sky?
They have suicide nets on like the factories and all that.
Yeah, I think it was Ofcom that were doing that, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Foxconn.
Because yeah, American companies have an involvement in it, but China sets the rules. Like, I don't know if people know this.
Right,
Like, China sets the rules. America doesn't go in and
right.
set the rules of how China allows it to work its people. China turned around and decided to make capital off what is called workshop of the world. Like, I can't believe that, like, we can't even talk about the simplest bits of imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, regarding China, because apparently it doesn't fit the 5 points of imperialism, which Lenin himself distinctly said is a useless metric for measuring whether a country is imperialist, because nothing will ever fully fit the 5 points. They will always have something that's missing, and there's always the developing powers. Lenin marked the Russian Empire as imperialist, and trust me, it did not fit the 5 points of imperialism because it lacked in certain areas as a developing power. But it was still an imperialist country. It is not a metric to be used. You know what Lenin said is supposed to be used? Dialectical materialism. He didn't even say just read his book. No, you read the book, you understand what he's going on about for his era, you can make analysis of that era, and then you analyze the real fucking world. You compare it to that book. You look where Lenin's right, you look where Lenin's wrong, and you look at what's going on, and you make your own conclusions because everyone's as smart as Lenin when they put their mind to it. Stop fucking putting him on a pedestal. The end of the fucking point is that China is using its people as it's to next to slave labor. When you're paying people as cheap as you're paying them in these third world fucking situations where they work people to fucking death, when you're paying them that little, that's next to slavery. When you're fucking working them like that, it's next to slavery. When you have to put
Yeah,
suicide nets on your fucking building, that makes a statement of how severe the slavery is. Doesn't matter if it's been removed now and things have gotten slightly better and you've developed the middle class. That underclass still exists. The extreme labor still exists.
right. And
And
keep in
we
mind the
can't talk about
population.
it because China's a golden goose. They're special. It'd be like turning around and not being able to talk about child labor in Britain in the 1880s.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we have to remind the people right now that, like, when these dingus are talking about a rising middle class and they're ignoring the lower class being enslaved labor, basically, we're talking about a population of like what 1.4 billion people. So we're talking about millions of people that are still impoverished, impoverished. So yeah, it's a lot of people who are suffering.
But I mean, Doc Sanofi as well in his prior point on about fucking what's it, Binga Bonga Be liberal. Fucking what's it? Their racism towards Lunaroy, the Patsocs in
Yeah,
general, the Dengists, they're so
yeah,
concerned about racism towards China when you criticize its socioeconomic structure,
right,
but they literally turn around and are racist to a Vietnamese comrade. Yeah, their ideas. You know where Lunaroy's ideas feel a bit crap is where they feel similar to Dengist ones, not when they're different. Like the different ideas are where Lunaroy shines. When Lunaroy is criticizing on a more class structural basis and is getting at the first world aristocracy and other stuff like that. Fucking brilliant. Problem with Luna Roy is that, in my opinion, I feel that she's a bit too faithful in what Vietnam's gonna do regarding socialism, but I could be wrong. She's a Vietnamese person. She knows better than me about Vietnam. I can't turn around and tell her
right,
otherwise, so I don't go about making criticism videos of Luna Roy. It's not my place. Like, if I learn more about
right,
Vietnam and I feel like I could actually speak to her about it, I'd speak to her about it. Maybe I'll even engage with her at some point and have her teach me more about it. But at the end of the day, I can't say fucking spit for spat. What the fuck do I know?
right. And the thing is, like, she doesn't. like I don't think she's ever really made a video on China. I think what it was is like what she had like some tweet about China that I don't even remember what it was,
More of
but
her
it's like
thing is the fact that she's criticized first worldist stuff, and that's what they've gotten
right,
her about. Like, I mean, she's criticized the
right.
colonial nature of some of these Pat Socks things and all of that stuff like that. So she
Oh, true. Right,
made
that's true.
herself a target because that's the mentality of these people. They think brutalism is a logical behavior.
Right. Oh, and they make disgusting attacks against her. And like it's just like completely disgusting. Right.
Oh wait, do you know what? I know the perfect image for this stream. I didn't even think about it. One second. Um, I need to save the picture because I don't know if it's saved. What did I? No, I didn't.
Is that a French flag?
That is a French flag. Um, the French are coming. Image. Okay. Browse. The French. So China, France, they both use symbols of revolutionary past. Check. They both imperialize Africa under the guise of development. Check. Developing the productive forces. Check. Has imperialist ambitions opposed to U.S. imperialism. Check. Supported by Dengists for France. Dengists, you've got another country you can support. The French. Show how scummy you really are and support the French. I mean, they do the Larouchian thing where they use the word British as a cover to say Jewish people. That's why they go on about how the British control America and the British control everywhere
Right.
else. Um,
Right.
See,
And
Caleb didn't used
London.
to do the British thing. He used to just go on about Israel instead. But then he was told that he's coming across anti-Semitic, so instead he started to do the Larouchian thing and call him Brit.
Right. The interesting part about that is that Caleb actually claims that it was his Jewish friends who told him that. So, and I heard him say that specifically. So, yeah. Like they told him like, yeah, you need
I've
to
got
like
loads of Jewish friends. Was his response when people said it was anti-Semitic, and they
yes,
love
about
it.
the book. Yes. Yes, I saw it. I saw him say it like that. Yep.
Then again, we're talking about a guy who says gangsters in a racist fashion. So
Right.
even though gangsters were originally white, Caleb, I don't know if you know the white middle class people. I find it I find the way that it's come across into the lower class, it's become a thing that's cool now. But originally it was a slur, and it's something that people have just taken on because they've made it into something else. So I can't take it away from the lower classes that they've made gangster into something else, but it originates from a slur.
Right. What's your I was gonna ask anybody in here, like, um what's your response to like I guess the accusations that Xi Jinping has a cult of personality um being built up publicly?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, that would make sense. The guy is a big billionaire fascist who has control over the government. Like, why wouldn't he?
Right.
I mean,
Because I
Hitler
just
did the
I
same
just
thing in his society. Mussolini did it with his. I mean, even even people like Bill Clinton and Tony Blair tried to build it up. I mean, Tony Blair was the rock star prime minister. He used to be in a band.
Right. Right.
I mean, the
Because
guy was a
they
fucking knobbly cunt, so no one really believed him that he was in a band. So he was like, no, 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 I promise, it's in a band.
right. Didn't Blair admit to being a former trot at some point? I swear he did, but I could be wrong.
Likely. I mean, a lot of trots went third positionist. Everyone says they went neocon, but no, more of them went third positionist. But this
Right.
new third positionist, or it claims to be, um, a modernization of social democracy. That's what the third way claims. Gaddon's third way, which is what Tony Blair's third way is based off. Bill Clinton is a product of Tony Blair's third way. Tony Blair published the document The Third Way in 1993, written with Gerhard Schroeder, who was the leader of the Socialistische Deutsche Party, Social Democrat Party of Germany.
Mm-hmm. I just saw that in 2018 the National Congress in China and the party they put Xi Jinping thought enshrined into the state constitution as well as the National Congress.
Whiny the poop G. I'm just looking at the chat. Oh man. Well, let me just copy and paste that into the fucking.
Whiny the Pooh.
Yeah, I gotta get that. Gotta get that. Alright, why don't we just paste? Where's the save as an image? A PNG. Da-da-da. There we go. We are complete. We need the poop. Oh, this is gonna get spun out of control. Caleb will say productive forces and Roman Empire. Hundreds of millions. Come on, man. It's constructive Satanism, guys. That's what China's gone for, a constructive Satanist period. It's racist to point out that the Han are racist to the rest of China. And actually, from what I've been told, Han people are racist to darker skinned Han people. So and then there's the countryside to the cities chauvinism too.
Right, and I think the top the ones in Taiwan, they're racist against the Aborigines.
Yeah,
Like there's a yeah.
fucking that nasty British term always crops up everywhere. Aboriginal. Some people believe that that's the term that only means for the Australians. I've had to bonk people on the head lightly when they've said stuff like that. It's like, no, 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 that was a colonial term the British used everywhere they went. Um, Actually, South Africa distinctly used it in its legal program. They called the black community Aboriginal.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah, it's used all over. Um, what effects did Japanese colonialism have on Taiwan? Not so much Japanese colonialism. Think more about British colonialism. So Britain was grooming the ROC for decades, and what's it? The other separate groups that weren't involved in the ROC. Yeah, that's where you saw a lot of ROC similar flags cropping up in a lot of nations. British was twitting and twangling, and the US was trying to get involved too. China and Russia was Britain's Eurasian project. They wanted to dominate land and sea. So they wanted to build empires that would basically dictate over these regions. They sort of thought about how the Roman Empire went and sort of thought a step ahead and thought that they'd have just separate empires that would dominate in those regions for the British. They
Right.
had collaborated with them, but I'm just saying that the ROC's sort of colonial program was more based off the British than it was the Japanese. Yeah, I mean, during the war, they started collaborating with them a fair bit, and they had a weird relationship. And obviously, it's right and left Kuomintang we're talking about at this point. Then, when they had the split, but the colonial program of the ROC is based off of the British. Um, Cultural influences. That's where the Japanese might have more of a influence in regards to how they got involved. Because I know that in Korea, for example, the South Koreans are heavily not just influenced but controlled by not just the economic dominance Japan has over the region, but a lot of the cultural dominance they have in the region as well because of the genocide they committed against Korean people. A lot of it came to a cultural hill as well. That's why there's a big differentiation in how much culture has been preserved between the North and the South. The North has much achieved this greater than the South has. It's actually what makes a lot of Southern people become communists in Korea. They want to be more connected with their culture. I mean, you could scratch this up similarly to how a lot of people in Northern Ireland or in the English diaspora of Irish people become um, at the very least Irish Republicans, if not Irish Socialist Republicans, is because of their want to be rekindled with their culture truly and not be oppressed by English culture. Um, let's be honest, supporters of China don't care about the people of that China oppresses in their own country. If anything, they are racist against the people of China, not the other way around. Exactly. In fact,
Right.
I'd argue they push Orientalism onto the Chinese people. I mean, how fucking racist can you get? Absolutely, absolutely. Orientalism comes from the British, the Victorian era, I do believe. Well, it kind of started around the 1400s. This really when Britain started to cook up its Oriental conspiracies of the East, and the Romans already did this themselves before them. It was nothing new. But around the 1400s, Britain really starts to kick up its Oriental conspiracies of the East, and that started with West Asia, what we now call Middle East. Um, but by the time of the 1800s, it was all these stories of China. China was the big Great Orient, which is not exactly correct. The Orient is supposed to be West Asia, from what I remember, but Britain doesn't give a shit, so they just
Right.
started, going all on about China and created this sort of what's it, uh, like magical conception of China that was incredibly racist. That had them as this offshoot people that ain't the same as everyone else. They don't function like us. Everyone else does. They're crazily different. It's a magical, different world in the Orient. Mysticism, that would be the word. I mean, dude, it's a pseudo mysticism. My Demarchist fucking comrades are gonna like that term. I know they're gonna like that. Imperialist pseudo mysticism. That's what I would call it. Mysticism isn't supposed to disparage culture. It's supposed to be embracive of culture. So I see it as pseudo. That's sort of my position in that retrospect. Uh, Other people might disagree, but I'm not against mysticistic people who come from that sort of perspective, because there's been some good Marxists who have made positions from a mystical perspective. They've still been dialectical materialists, but they've spoken more mystical language, and let it be, let it be. It's harder for people to understand, so people should avoid it, but I'm not going to stop people from doing it. Criticism, criticism, criticism. That's how we keep things flowing. But, the problem with this imbecilic construct, it's not just racist, it's fucking stupid. It stops us from actively criticizing China in an effective fashion. Because, I mean, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to stop. But I know so many comrades who have been afraid to speak up about their issues with China because they're going to get fucking lampooned as a racist because they have problems
Right.
with its socioeconomics and its
Or
racism against people. Oh, and
or they're
they'll
gonna
just
get
they'll be labeled as a racist because that's one thing. They get labeled as a U.S. fascist, like someone who supports fascism from an American perspective.
right. Or they'll call you ultra left, which is the Pat Sock crowd. Um,
I've been called a State Department asset for criticizing China.
jeez, wow,
I fucking wish. Gets loads of money then.
right.
That's what I think we're here for, even though I've distinctively said that this channel won't earn a penny in my pocket. But, you know, people don't get that shit. But
Well, you always,
I wouldn't be
you
living
always,
I wouldn't be living in a fucking cheap fucking ass flat if I was a State Department asset in the middle of fucking England, would I? I'd be fucking
right.
likely down fucking south, living in a fucking apartment that's fucking full of all glorious shit. Like State Department assets, they get paid a wafty fucking loan, wafty loan. But Caleb Marpen and his little crowd, you're a State Department asset, you're an ultra left, you're a synthetic left, you're
Yeah,
a Teenage Mutant Ninja Satanist, um,
yeah. Your bread tube.
a bread tube. You're a constructive criticism, so you're a Satanist. Um, if you that's setting up anyone who says just a criticism that is seen as quote non-constructive end quote. Then they would just be like, "Oh, well, you're not just a constructive Satanist; you're a Satanist." Like, you know,
Yeah.
being
God.
constructively critical. Like, it's made criticism an evil thing. Like, what's the evil about criticism? Oh, does it
Yeah,
make you
that's so
sad, Caleb, when you're
crazy.
told that you're wrong?
Right. Um. Yeah, it's so crazy. Oh, and of course, if you like criticize China on their economic policies, you're a Malthusian. You just want them to be poor, which is kind of ironic coming from them.
I do want Caleb to be poor, especially Caleb.
Yeah, recently he's been trying to portray himself. He's doing it like lightly, and he said that when he lived in Cleveland, in Ohio, even like it's not far from where he was born. He tried to claim that he went without eating for 4 days during, I guess, college or something like that. So like he's trying to like put that image into his cult that yeah, I was like a poor guy for 4 days in an apartment or whatever. And he claimed that he sold his plasma blood. I don't know how he sold it, but apparently he somehow did.
Keep muting myself. Indeed.
Can you hear me?
Sold his plasma blood. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Blood is a plasma. It's not a liquid.
And technically that's illegal, but I don't know. He won't explain it though. Maybe he's just lying, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it has to be done through like a trained medical procedure, and it has to you have to actually like agree to do it. Like giving blood is not a simple thing.
Right.
Can't just fucking sell it on the dark web. Well, you can, but no, not supposed
Yeah.
to. Then again, we like to break laws because it's naughty.
You just want to be a gangster. I'm
Gangster.
quoting.
It's so embarrassing. He uploaded it as well. Wasn't it a video, not a stream? Like,
Oh, well, I'm the one who clipped it from his stream.
oh, well, same
Uh,
difference. Like, he didn't cut it out from his video. He didn't edit it. Like,
no, he left it intact. So I recorded it, and when he did that,
I think I'm invisible to him on YouTube because he never answers to my comments.
I think what happens that I notice is that if you put his full name in the title of your video, or someone shows it to him, that's when he'll find it right away.
No, I mean,
Um,
I always have Morpen watch. His surname is always there. I need to use the
uh,
at system thing. There's an at thing where you can at people's channels, and I need to start doing that so
right,
it tags him every time I do a video
yeah,
on him.
or maybe just call it Caleb Mop and Watch, and maybe he'll find it for sure.
It's not as
Um,
off the tongue though. It's not as beat friendly.
yeah, I know.
I know he has
Well,
his little fucking servants going freaking sifting through my streams and time stamping
right.
them to do
Well,
critiques of timestamp situations where they're not actually looking at the full context of anything. They're just trying to catch me out of breath.
right. Well,
Funny.
B Liberal's our biggest fan because like he definitely watches Mop and Watch, and then he does a 1 hour response and smears everybody. So he'll be
He
watching
loves
it
me.
soon.
He's my biggest fan. He loves me. I'm glad
Yeah,
I'm
he
so
does.
entertaining. I'm just gonna start picking my ass every stream so he has something else to talk about because he'll just talk about that the whole time. He's
Right.
trying to snipe and sabotage. So why not just give him fuel for his fire?
Yeah.
This time
Well,
on Mob and watch me shit on the floor. I've broke the fourth wall because I've acknowledged them now. So like, what's it? Probably gonna get some funky
right.
comment.
Right. One thing I wanted to bring up with the Dangus and all these people is that they like to spin around the fact that like around the private property issue in China, it's like inside their constitution. But they'll claim that as long as the party are communists, that it's all right, or that as long as there's eminent domain, therefore it's still like socialist and all this. Um, but then I saw Jason Unruh point out that well, the U.S. Constitution also has like eminent domain, so like their arguments are kind of like more on the social democracy aspect, and it's like circular.
That's typical.
And of course, like this is always the issue I find with Dangus is they always had to go back to well the party are communists and the billionaires are communist members too. So
Oh yeah, the fact
so
that the leadership is literally billionaires. Like the leader of the country, Xi Jinping, is a landlord billionaire.
right, yep. And I think even that one other billionaire, the Alibaba guy, Alibaba, what's his name?
Jack
Um,
Ma.
yeah, the one that Dingus were pretending that he got gulagged and he never was. I think he's even a member, so yeah,
Yeah, he was a member of the Communist Party.
right.
An organization capitalists should not even be allowed in.
One of the PATSOC leaders, they tried to not mop and the other fool. He tried to claim that. What did he claim? He tried to say that oh they'll get rid of the capitalists when they need to. And that was one of the other excuses. Because I guess capitalists are useful right now, so
Guys, it's an
I don't know.
NEP.
Right.
I don't remember Lenin ever letting capitalists run the government during the NEP.
I mean, wasn't the NEP didn't it last like only 5 years, if I remember? I mean, quote me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, you are right, Garos, in the chat. They all go swarming at things that are like zero tier and mean nothing to them as a way to build up clout. Like they're trying to build up clout on the way that the debate bro market looks, and also trying to make themselves look grounded, makes them look like they engage with anyone. They're open door. They're not inaccessible. And they preach anti-lumpen shit all the way up to one conclusion that they will do when they'll engage with the lumpen. The only thing they'll do, and that's to get the lumpen out of the lumpen. And into the labor aristocracy. Okay,
one another thing I was gonna bring up, and then I just forgot about it. But I mean, like, look at all the relations that China has. I mean, like recently, the the spokesman for the CCP they congratulated the son of the. So in the Philippines, the son of the dictator, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. He won the election supposedly, um, and like China just like congratulated him right away. Um, and I mean, it's just a complete betrayal of of the communists in the Philippines for China to do this.
It's all about what benefits them as an empire. And I mean, like,
Right,
it's like Dark Synovia says in the chat, like he finds it ironic that they call people fascists when they just support American fascism. They don't just support American fascism; they support Chinese fascism, which supports Filipino fascism, which supports Israeli
right.
fascism, Saudi Arabian fascism. For 2 years,
Qatari fascism.
yeah, absolutely, right on. Ethiopian
Yeah,
fascism as well.
God.
For 2 years, Missouri, my family had to live on £50 a month on food. And this was back in 2005 to 2007. Things got so bad that we had to go to a food bank for food because we didn't have enough money. I know the feeling with that. I've had to be food bank myself. It's not nice. Caleb doesn't know a fucking thing what it's like to live with little to no food or having to be dependent on a food bank. He does not at all. When you're like fucking having to carry food bank miles home because you've got no bus fare because obviously you've got no money. You're having to fucking go get food bank, and the food bank on the day that you're able to go and get it is at the opposite side of town to where your shared house is. So I had to fucking go walk 4 miles carrying shopping. Not nice when you have chronic fatigue.
Right.
And people like Caleb don't know what it's like when you're at that rock bottom. But capitalists belong in the gulag as well. That's a bright side. There's the truth. Um, that's being nice as well. Let's be real. Capitalists, they deserve to have an interesting relationship with facing a wall, a brick wall, just for a moment. It'll only take a short while. And not like the Soviets did, where it's like a special brick wall just for taking you out to be plinked. No, it'll be out the back of a Denny's or something. A Wendy's dumpster. If you ask me, capitalists deserve far worse than death. Death is too easy. They should be forced to work hard. Uh, um, well, yeah, what that said. We could always fucking do what um the Balkans lot were getting up to, where they were fucking what's it, throwing Nazis down wells.
Well, last month, the state of Israel, they added a lot of like Chinese currency notes into their bank reserves. Um, so that really shows you like where Israel is headed. Um,
Yeah, Dr. Novia, capitalists, they deserve some sense of evil being brought to them, but you don't want to develop any form of an oppressive mindset after the construction as much as it be righteous. So if you just deal with the problem and move on, things can return to a more settled time, and we can get past it.
Yeah, but Caleb would say that is you're engaging in your impulses, which is bad because French Revolution, sexual impulses, peasantry.
The peasant got kinky in the French Revolution. Is that why capitalism won?
Yes. Also, I wanted to bring up with like the Philippines because this case has really been irking me. Um, have you guys ever heard of Peter Scully?
It sounds familiar to me.
I think I talked
Um,
about him with the Engels list at some point.
yeah, this case is really fucking insane, and it's uh, because like it's opened up a world that like most people didn't even think like. So basically, Peter Scully was this guy in Australia who was basically like fleecing people. Like a would he be classified as petty bourgeois or just a labor aristocrat? He had some money, let's just say. Um, so he was getting in trouble with the law. He leaves Australia to the Philippines, and since there's a lot of poverty in the Philippines, guess what he starts doing? He starts paying girls, and then eventually he starts grooming them and raping them.
Fuck.
Yep.
So lower to middle
Some,
aristocrats themselves are able to do this too, where they find a third world country where they would become rich if they moved there, and they start abusing people.
and keep in mind, one of them was literally like a few month old baby. It was supposedly not even a real video. It was something on the dark web. People said, "Oh, it's too horrible not to be real." But then eventually, it was confirmed to be real. Daisy's destruction.
Wow, that is some deep
And
evil.
yeah, the worst part is, he was still running his pedophile ring while in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, with one of his Filipino girlfriends that he groomed. Oh, and all the evidence in his case mysteriously burned up. So totally
Imagine
not
that.
suspicious. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much corruption there in the Philippines. It's bad. I mean, so like if his evidence burned up, like, can you imagine like whether people have gone away?
Oh well, he charges 10K a video to watch some of his sick shit. So I can only imagine some of these reptilian billionaires probably watch it
Right.
because they're inhuman freaks, basically.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of creeps out there who sadly they got into like the whole cryptocurrency like ages ago. And so they're probably like rich now. But they're probably like, from the dark web era of things. Right.
But yeah, that case definitely. I just when I first heard it, I couldn't believe it, and I went down a rabbit hole that I couldn't even believe.
Right. Yeah.
Watch us find out some other urban legends are real, like years later, because a lot of this stuff came from like the dark web, and it was
Right.
considered an urban legend. And it's like years later, like, oh, by the way, that was actually all true.
We used to hear about
Right.
all those
Yeah.
urban legends when we were kids. Someone found something on the dark web here, there, or otherwise. Usually some
Because
form
it's
of like fucking crazy ass trans murder porn or something of that fucking extent, like evil shit.
well, you can't watch Daisy's Destruction because it's highly illegal. I assume probably also in the United Kingdom as well. It would.
People still do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, the trafficking ring that we're dealing with in Arizona and that we've been ousted, that trafficking ring makes a lot of money off trans murder porn. It's something that's sold about on the dark web.
Uh.
It's,
Yeah, Arizona. I was only there once, but it's sounding like a scary ass fucking place.
yeah, the Nazi fucking swastika thing suits it. Like,
And then you got that racist. Well, luckily he's not in power now, but back in the day, I still remember the racist sheriff of Maricopa, Joe Arpaio. Um, I mean that guy went around just like targeting immigrants and non-immigrants too.
I
Um,
mean, it was the state of Barry Goldwater. I mean,
right, and John
look
McCain.
up, yeah, but Barry Goldwater specifically, he was
Right,
legitimately the guy who created the modern conservative movement and all this
right,
bullshit.
right, and I'm pretty sure he was a big anti-communist as well.
Huge. Wanted to drop nukes on North Vietnam.
Yeah, that's real insane. Wow. Yeah, and I still know like even like boomer Republicans who like still like Barry Goldwater. They still like admire him. Oh, I just posted a link where Israeli goods imports from China are up 42% in the first 4 months of this year.
Socialism with Israeli characteristics.
I thought China didn't like Zionism. What are you trying to tell me that China loves Zionism?
Wait, what's our script? Because I thought socialism was pro-Zionism now, according to Moppin. Or
What's the script?
I mean,
Yeah, there was a
As if
Pat
I
Sock
could
who
write a fucking script.
yeah, there's some dingus now who are trying to justify China having relations with Israel, and trade. Um,
Well, America does it, and if you've not got a problem with America doing it, which is like everyone has a problem with America doing it, what the fuck are they on about?
right, exactly, exactly. It's insane.
Israel shouldn't exist. That's my argument.
yeah, struggle of our time, literally like, yeah,
Well,
the struggle of our time, literally like, um, just babies getting gunned down every day, and it's like, yeah, but productive forces, man. just go into like a crying Palestinian woman as she's mourning her baby. You know, like they had to die in the name of productive forces.
Jeez. Or like that Arab journalist who got shot in the face recently. I mean, killed execution style, basically.
Yep, died in the name of productive forces. That's pretty much what I'm going to say every time now. Basically, like all these deaths have to be done in the name of productive forces.
Don't forget about the productive forces.
Also called Malthusianism. Oh wait.
Yeah, if you forget about the productive forces and you care about the population and want to keep the population up, you're a Malthusian. It's basically their argument. Like, they get Malthusianism backwards. Malthusianism is about cutting off the population and increasing industry.
Right. Well, recently now a new term they developed is neo-Malthusianism.
No, don't.
My
Please
response, know you.
Know you, that is the good response. It takes a
Right.
lot of thought to get to know you. Like, it's a really hard one to think of. When you think of it, you're like, yep, know you. I just do it in the middle of videos when Caleb's going on too long. I think the funniest thing is when I spread him up to 1.75 speed. He's like, like, I know I'm autistic and I'm bad with my hands, but oh joy. Willkommen. Israel has tainted the Star of David just like the Nazis tainted the swastika. It will take at least 100 years, if not more, to redeem those symbols. Oh joy, the world is still fucked. Oh,
I mean, well, just a caveat.
the
I'd say in a
21st
lot of ways
century.
it's actually worse because the swastika, at least in some parts of India and China, is still can
Means a peace
somewhat still
symbol.
be used without. It can still be used without Nazi economy.
It's hard to use the Star of David without being referenced to Israel or
It's
to the
really
Holocaust. It's
difficult.
the only two ways it
Well,
tends to go.
the other problem though is that the Falun Gong, the cult king or whatever from China that are
Crazy
anti-China,
religious group.
yeah, they use the
I
swastika as
swear
well.
I saw Connor Gillis before transition in one of the videos for the Falun Gong thing on the Sophia Mars breakdown. Like, I swear to fucking God, like, there's a scene where there's some American doing a piece of propaganda in China for it, somewhere in the mid 2000s.
I
Maybe
see.
the 2010s. I don't know, because like obviously I'm going off my own country's camera tech. I know China. I mean, China still uses video CD, so just take it as that. That's video compact disc. It's not very good quality. It makes VHS look good. So I'm going off quality assurances. That might not be the case. It probably is the mid 2010s, but either way, this person looked distinctly like Connor Gillis. But then again, Americans do look the same a lot, so I might just be quite offensive in what I'm stating here. But this was before transition, so I'm not making any offensive comparison in that retrospect. I'm looking at them as I saw them before transition on their YouTube channel, comparative to the person that was speaking on the, the propaganda piece. Not that I'm really criticizing them for them. The Falun Gong can get fucked. It was just an interesting sight. Makes you do a thinky.
Right.
Big thinky.
You know what I learned that's even more disturbing is that things like Falun Gong, like it's not even the craziest cult in China. Like there's other cults that are even crazier. Like no, and they don't even get so much like coverage because they're not necessarily they might be useful to
Chinese government.
Well, it could also be problematic maybe to even like neocons too. It's like, whoa, these guys are a little bit too crazy even for us. like Eastern Lightning going into like McDonald's and killing somebody or something, and
Oh,
claiming because they had to like save the world or some insane shit.
Why is it always
Uh,
McDonald's that this cool shit happens? Like, fucking, you go Burger King, and the only reason someone's died is because the food has fucking gone off. To be fair, the burger quality is better at Burger King, but that's a mute point. It's all shit. And I like the shit taste of McDonald's. Fight me.
their fries are good. I'll give them that.
They used to be good, but they're more soggy than they are than they used to be today. Like they're not as good as they used to be. They lost their touch. You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah. That song ever since I've been a kid gets stuck in my head every time You Got the Touch gets brought up. Fucking Transformers the movie. If you've not watched it, you're a fucking piece of shit and I'll fight you with a broken glass bottle. Funny thing is, Stalin rejected the idea of focusing entirely on productive forces and ignoring productive relations, so the means of production, or working towards the abolition of commodity production. There was a drug tunnel under a KFC found here in Arizona. That sounds like Arizona.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
The Twilight
Yeah.
Zone of America.
It's like that whole region. Like, oh god, it's like that. So you got in Arizona these fucking neo Nazis, and then you got in like Mexico like these. I'm not gonna lie, straight up, just these cartels. It's like, ooh, some of
Yeah.
the shit that comes out of there is, ooh.
Yeah.
I wish I had never seen it. Like I can't even tell you some of the descriptions that I've seen because I've had to like bleach my eyes pretty much. Literally had to bleach it. It's like some of the worst shit I've ever seen, and that's saying a
Yeah.
lot.
Arizona
paid attention to ISIS.
Ranger.
Yeah, I mean, I think even Chapo Guzman compared his like other cartel rivals to ISIS. So that really shows you like where it's at right now with these CIA backed cartels.
Yeah, a lot worse than ISIS if you ask me. But
Right.
The thing is,
I agree.
though, in Arizona, the lumpen proletariat, especially when you're looking around like the conglomerative cities and towns where they're urban, the lumpen proletariat in these regions are very, very class conscious. So when it comes to the way that area is oppressive, these people get pushed into consciousness. It's sort of complicated with the working class because there's a mass amount of the working class in Arizona that's bourgeoisificated. They're taken away from the lower class, but the lower class workers also very class conscious. I need a favor. I need you to mention the following for the sake of a friend. Oh, go on. What's the struggle? Yeah, I have a red and brown alliance when I have fucking shit. Piles, baby. Or when you have intestinal problems, you get the black poo too. So you get in the dance of the dead, blackened is your turd.
yeah, the worst kind of shits are the ones that stick a lot, and like you gotta like really go up in there.
Okay, so this is
Just
some nasty business. 1 second. So, this information needs to be spread by everyone as much as possible. Quote, my relative who was being treated in Ukraine was forcibly drafted into the army of Ukraine and his wife was expelled from the country, but they are both citizens of Uzbekistan. They are just grabbing anyone and everyone and forcing them into the military, even though they're not Ukrainian citizens. And then they're deporting the rest of their relatives. They're taking them away from their family completely, tearing them up.
Dude.
So let me get this straight. Let me try to figure this one out. So they're literally forcibly conscripting people and then deporting their family.
Yeah, people who aren't even citizens. These are Uzbekistanis. They were just having treatment. They didn't have to use Ukrainian citizenship. It was green card essentially. You know, for how the UK
Right.
works, green card. And the fact that they were having treatment as well. They're having treatment, and then they're being drafted straight in the military. So they're not even in fit health, like, or they're just about in fit health. Either way, they're not military ready.
Right.
And their family have been torn away from them. Their family don't know whether they're ever going to see that person again. That's nasty business.
Completely.
Probably should do a dedicated video on that as well, just to make it more direct and center pedestal, because that's nasty business. Like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, I really couldn't imagine what it's like to be in that position. Like, well, I mean, I can, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not something that you can just put yourself in the feet of. Like, that man's about to go and fight to his death in a war he doesn't want anything to do with.
Come on, man. The third world really cares about the Russia-Ukraine war, don't you know? That's why they're talking about it all the time. You go to Africa and it's like the first thing they talk about.
Yeah, there are, not that they're talking about US, UK, Chinese, French, and other empires oppressing them all the time, like, as they
Right.
should be. I
Well,
mean,
there's
West
even
Asia,
there's
they
even
have used this war in Ukraine to silence West Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa and North Africa. They're trying to silence these areas where massive struggle is happening. They're trying to silence the black people of South Africa that have been trying their absolute hardest to point out that there is no white fucking genocide in South Africa. It's bullshit.
right.
The news media all around the world will go and preach the white genocide shit. It's all over the American news.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson did that as well. You know,
I've heard it from people who aren't even like Tucker Carlson. I've heard it from just
Yeah,
straight up, quote unquote normal people, air
CNN.
quotes.
CNN, I swear,
Yeah.
touched it as well.
right.
They went around. I think they did interview people that were critical of it, but they went around and like sat with fucking, farmers essentially, like, on the news, and just chatted with these fucking farmers who were pissed because they'd lost their land since the 90s.
Yeah, and I've seen videos about it too, like this one guy saying, "Oh, well, there's just been this epidemic of white farmers getting killed by these roving gangs of black people." Just like, fucking what?
Roving black swarm.
They're talking about it the same way the British Empire talked about Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. So basically, what is it? What's the paper of record in the United Kingdom? I think it's the London Standard or one of those fucking papers.
Yeah.
It basically said that Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was basically him basically freeing, quote unquote, freeing the black hordes in order to basically rape and kill the Southerners, pretty much. Because you got to understand, the British Empire was pro Confederacy. Just
Right.
again,
Yeah, they
written
wanted
out
to
of the
keep
history
slavery
forever.
going, like,
Yeah. And it wasn't just that either. I mean, like, the cotton was one thing. They had the British, they had India as well, but it was also solidarity as well. I mean, they were an Anglo-Saxon, race. Like they saw them in very similar, this was as basically brotherhood kind of, fellow
It's more
kin,
like
pretty
father
much.
and well, I
And
think Britain seen as the mother, so mother and son. It's one of those weird relationships.
the French too. Let's not forget old.
Well, yeah, the French is the distant
Napoleon.
father.
Yeah.
America is an abused child, but they're one of those abused child that went on to abuse other children, quite like Hitler.
And Spain is like what, the very distant uncle.
Yeah, Spain's the drug addicted uncle.
Yeah.
Goes around kicking
but
donkeys off tower blocks and fucking sleeping all day. That's the Spanish.
one of the Pat Sox, you remember him, Ginger's default.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He said in Discord once that the Haitian Revolution was a white genocide, basically.
Yeah. He's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on another level. That's the way I put it. On another level.
Yeah, he basically said I was basically a Jewish puppet. I mean, using
you're
the
being controlled
Soros.
by Comrade Net. You're on the list.
Yes, I'm being controlled by Soros. Parenthesis.
Right. Kean Mansfield is now saying that land back is anti-communist.
No, you.
Yeah, that's all that really can be said.
Well, I mean, he does want land back. It's just in Jonestown, Guyana, basically. I mean, he wants to set up his own land back.
My love boy's got it right. No. How about no genocide?
Okay. Put down the applesauce, Keaton. Yeah. I mean, he's basically like a white. He wants to be a white Jim Jones, basically. Was like a pro-China element.
Keaton butt plug off Turtle Island, please. Oh man, he probably does own a butt plug, doesn't he? Because he's a good little Catholic. Except when he's using a trans person who has a back problem, who needed to lie down on a comfier bed, sexually manipulating them and using them. Because that's what I feel like that situation went down. Like, this guy is this Catholic priest type person who wants to stay pure, but then he literally takes advantage of someone who's in a troubled situation, who is if anyone knows what it's like for people who've been trans. I mean, not always is this the case, but a lot of trans people are going through a lot of fucking trauma, a lot of it associated with sexual trauma. So when they're trying to deal with these struggles and people come along and they take advantage of the situation, they are taking advantage of someone who is broken and disheveled. Like, they're going through the motions, they're dealing with stress and trauma, and they're taking advantage of them in an easy situation. Because Keith Mansfield's a predator. He seems to be following the Vatican style of Catholicism, where they touch kids.
He's following the Jim Jones. I'm gonna have sex with all my parishioners and control them.
Yeah,
Jim Jones. I had to.
Yeah, it seems like Jim Jones. Like, there's accusations that he forced himself on the women.
But not just the women; it was the men too. He was forcing it on everybody to control them.
Wow.
The power of the mind controlling penis.
Yeah, and Jim Jones met with like Jim Jones like met with all these politicians in San Francisco, and like at some point I think he met Jimmy Carter before he was president.
Got him with the
Yeah.
mind control penis.
Yeah, there's some odd
Do you
stuff about.
believe in the great replacement theory because you're racist, Islamophobic, what or whatever? I believe in it because I want it to happen. We are not the same.
What?
What happened?
My Arab friend, he turns around and goes, "You believe in the great replacement theory because you are a racist, Islamophobic, or whatever it is. I believe in it because I want it to happen. We are not the same." uh,
Oh, and of course, the Pat Sox now, they want to promote like, what was it again? They basically want like a birth rate program in the U.S. Because apparently we don't have enough children or population.
To deal with the declining birth rate stuff.
Yeah, yeah, pronatalism, basically.
well, what you're about antinatalism?
I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, do people in China where they work them in sweatshops? I mean, how's the birth rate working there? With how good is childbirth rate there with their Malthusian policies? That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's very interesting.
I don't know.
Well,
Do they still have the one China? I don't think they have the one China
It's in
pop. I
certain
mean, the
areas.
one,
Certain areas are one child. Certain areas are not.
yeah,
and
But it
even
still
then,
exists.
I think there's exceptions though. Even then,
Yeah, there
not
is exceptions if you have a boy, but if you have a
oh,
girl, they're very
yeah,
sexist with these things. They don't like people having girls.
yeah.
okay. Now, wait a minute. How did they what? Because okay, so I'm trying to think like how they could justify that. Wouldn't that violate literally
It's a
like their
sexist
own?
perception of labor. They've literally undone China's equality laws, where China was like, women in the military, women in factories, women in this, women in that. It's gone back to like
Right.
foot binding and skin bleaching. What was happening in the ROC?
Yeah, and Caleb said, well, this is actually a good thing. Um, I think
They're
Caleb
being
did say that once about
traditionalists.
like go back to like traditional, like they need to have. I think his the way he says it is we need a balance between the two,
Oh God, yeah.
It's
between
not
He
incorrect.
sexism
It's
and
not incorrect entirely by saying that, yeah, we need a balance between our cultural backgrounds, what we know from it, what defines us is because individuality is somewhat important, but it's not important to the individual. It's important to us as cultural blocks of people. We're never really on our own in what we are and what we represent, but we are of cultural blocks and foundations and where they come from, what they represent. Very important. Traditionalism has an importance. Caleb is spinning it though, because Caleb is using traditionalism as fascists do, not as communists do. We have to use it
right.
because it's important to our cultural foundations. Cultural revolution was very profound on this, but we need to understand what we're doing with it, why we're taking this, why we're taking that, and how we're folding our head around these things.
yeah. We shouldn't take anything Caleb says at face value because a lot of stuff he says is either projections, half truths, or him just
Yeah,
spinning, fascist stuff because he's just like a fascist. He'll spout whatever the fuck he thinks works here. He'll try something out, and if it doesn't work, he'll go to the next fucking thing. Um, Hitler did this all the time too. Like you can go back to like speeches of Hitler saying like he was incoherent sometimes. Like for example, the British Empire. You can go back to early speeches. Hitler would say the British Empire, they're our greatest enemy. But then he'll go back later and say, okay, I want an alliance with the British. But then during World War II, say, I want to annihilate Britain completely.
Well,
So he's all
still
over the map pretty much.
Himmler was still trying to get an alliance with the British during the war, though, and so was another Nazi who I can't remember the name of, who got captured in Scotland.
Rudolf Hess, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, Hess.
Yeah, although Goebbels was very anti Britain.
Yeah, he was more pro-Slavic.
Goebbels was all about doing the Slavo-Eurasian Empire.
Right.
Same with Hitler. Well, Hitler wanted to do both, side with the British and form Eurasia, but that's why he kept flip-flopping.
Yeah, he couldn't make
didn't
up his
have really a
mind.
grounded theory for imperialism. Himmler was very off the cuff because he was a crazy Satanist.
Yeah.
Sound like mopping now. But
Yeah,
I mean like a literal demon worshipper, like fucking hell. Himmler's crazy. Like literal lunacy, man. Proof like just like Nietzsche, Himmler is a great example of how fucking crazy the aristocracy is in times of crisis. Even I say this as well, and I mean this with no offense. Even the good aristocrats have this problem. Like sometimes it's great, like an emphatic aristocrat that's going about the mad way they go about things when they're correct is great. It feels righteous. It's fun to watch. Not in an insulting way, like in a beautiful way, but normally that's not the case. Normally they're in the incorrect position and they're attacking the revolution and they're being counterative with their positions. So it becomes problematic. But even with the good aristocrats, it can be problematic because there's a pretentiousness that arises in their perspectives and a self-fulfilling prophecy where they think that they know everything and their rationalism will save the universe, and rationalism is antithetical to dialectical materialism.
Okay, and in case anybody doesn't, like, if people are just thinking, oh, well, Stone's just saying that Himmler's crazy or whatever, without, like, really understanding the full context, like, I hope people realize, okay, I'm going to give you some examples, and these people are going to think I'm making this shit up. But basically, Himmler made a castle that a guy who was pretty high up with him claimed could basically have his consciousness go back in time, basically. Not his body, but his consciousness. And they also spent literally like tens of millions of dollars to drill underneath the earth.
This is
in
money
Hungary.
Of that time, so it's much more nowadays. That's tens of millions of dollars back in them days.
Yes, and to drill a hole underneath the earth in order to meet. Was this like some sort of like race of giant? No, it was the giant race. Yes, because there's like at least a couple dozen. You get into some of this stuff, it's like you're going down a rabbit hole that's like,
this is where all the
who
Nazi
needs flat
secret
earthers?
society shit comes from, where they're like, they found secret societies in Antarctica.
Yeah. We're getting into like some serious like occultist kind of stuff there. It's like this is like the stuff that.
Well, Hitler read the same, like he used to constantly read the same occultist books where Himmler got most of his ideas from.
Yeah, I mean it goes back to like the dual society and theosophy, which is the cult around Germany, and I know that there's like some bizarre Nazis who believe in like hollow Earth or whatever, which is connected to the Himmler.
Yeah, right. The race of giants. Yeah, they believed all kinds of crazy shit, but I think a lot of it had to do with because a lot of it had to do with like
How easy it is to
the
manipulate
capitalists.
aristocrats who are in a cult. That's what I feel it is. I don't like the difference between Hitler and Himmler is Hitler doesn't believe it all. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
he
Hitler's
believed
like
some of the
Caleb. Caleb
bullshit.
doesn't believe all his shit. I've heard someone say Caleb is like described himself in a way that's Protestantistic. So like he's Catholic, Protestant, he's this, he's that, he's other. He acts like a Calvinist. Um, Caleb is someone who apparently had an atheist phase, so I don't think he believes in God. I don't think he believes in Christianity. I think it's all a ruse.
He claims. So basically, if I were to give you his religious background, it's basically he was raised a liberal Protestant, became an atheist,
Oh,
and then became a liberal Protestant again, which is
okay.
literally my
I've heard someone
I
tell
know
me
that.
I heard someone
Yeah.
tell me he was a Catholic.
Well, that's
Well,
yeah.
well,
No, he's
I
denied that, but yeah.
Okay, so he walks like a prot, talks
I
like a prot,
think
barks like a prot. So he is a prot. That's the way I put it as well.
but
The other day I was like, at the end of the day, if it sounds like a prot and it walks like a prot, it's probably a prot.
I mean, his
what
father could have been. That wouldn't be too shocking because that's very similar to my upbringing as well, actually,
what
strangely enough.
I think what happened is that maybe I misheard him a bit, and I think what he said was that maybe his wife was Catholic, and like I guess so. Then maybe that makes more sense because
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, his wife is what's it Latin American, isn't
Guatemalan.
she? So
She's Guatemalan, I think.
yeah.
yeah, she's from Latin America. Um,
I don't know whether
but
she's
Caleb,
Spanish or whether she's native. Like I don't know that, but
I,
Latin.
I've seen Caleb. I've seen Caleb say that she's brown. That's all he says. So, but I don't know. I
Well,
can't
then she
verify.
probably is of native the same, which would make Caleb even more insulting of a person.
Right.
No, that type of shit. When you'll see people try and say that they're not racist because they have this, they have that. Okay, how many capitalists in America have Muslim mistresses and wives? Like,
Yeah.
and even if they treat them with great respect, does that make them not a racist? A woman to a lot of these people is an object, and Caleb is preaching. So Caleb is preaching very traditionalistic European Christianity, where women are heavily oppressed and treated like complete objects. Like they altered the story of creation to make it all about women being an object of pleasure. Like that's the twisted mind of European Christianity. They took out a lot of the innocence of Christianity and turned it into the evil it is today, and that's why Christianity has been. I mean, in the eyes of a lot of Jewish people, not Abrahamic, and I mean to be honest, for a lot of European Christianity, they're not wrong. Um, so Christianity has to return to the Abrahamic faith. It has to bring itself back for the Europeans. That is not for the Orient, but for the Europeans, both the Greco-Romantic Church of the East, the Orthodox Church, as people might call it, and the Romanic Church of the West. They both need to return to the Abrahamic faith, and that's going to take a lot of shit to deal with culturally, respectfully. Um, First of all,
One of my
depowering them in society. They are a massive powerhouse in the capitalist system, both the Vatican and the Orthodox. What's it fucking called in Russia?
the I think I don't know if the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Well, no, there's a
I think
center in
that's
Russia where the oligarchs of the church are, and I can't remember the fucking name of it.
there's. I think
I
it's
think
been
it's
split up so many times I can't even
it's
remember.
fucking well, no, it is
Moscow.
split up. The order's split up, but the most dominant realm of the Eastern Church is in Moscow.
It's like something Moscow, but I can't for the
I
life
don't
of
know.
me
I don't
remember
know.
the
Like
name.
it's a fucking church. Like it's the church that's the
Yeah.
center of the Russian Orthodox Church. Their equivalent of the Vatican.
Um, there was a funny
Actually, do you know
story.
what? Sorry, I would akin it more to the way the Church of England works with the bishops.
Yeah, I think that's a better analogy, at least nationally. But there was one funny story I remember of when Christianity was first introduced to some of like the Gallic tribal leaders, like these, like the what the Romans would call the barbarians. This is during like the Roman Empire times or something like that. I can't give you the exact date, and they're basically telling them about the story of Jesus and being crucified and being persecuted by the Romans, and they're like, if only Jesus had had me and my chieftains and a few of my good warriors, we could have taken out all of the Roman Empire. And I don't know. I like that story a lot.
Jesus was so two things that people don't know about Jesus. His form of pacifism, the traditional form of pacifism, is not non-violence. It's non-aggression. So actually, we were talking about this before this thing started. Aggression is wrongly used. An oppressed group fighting back is not aggression because they're not the aggressor. They are the defender. It's not aggression. Aggression has got a specific definition that has been whitewashed. So it can the oppressed can be equated with the oppressor. And this situation sparks the exact same kettle of fish. Where the standing up for one's right has been turned into a, a a period of aggression. Like, so Jesus, he stood up for what's right. So when it came to the Romans, he actually very much well spokenly, it's written in the fucking book. Maybe people should read it again. Said to fight the Romans. Like, he did not say to fucking bend over to them. I don't know if people read what he did to remove the people from the church. Well, from the synagogue. He booted them out of the synagogue physically with his foot, not metaphorically. He physically booted them out of it. What's it? And secondly speaking, Jesus was a part of a revolutionary movement called the Galilean movement of Galilee, which is of what was called Assyria at the time. The Galilean movement was a predominantly working class movement that stood against the Roman Empire. And people don't know this. Marx pointed this out, but the Roman Empire was a capitalist empire for a long time, not a short period. It didn't just die when it became capitalist. It was capitalist for a long time. This is not the first time we've done this rodeo. That's why it's become a joke, because you know those people who wanted to go and say, "Oh, well, bring our chieftain with a fight with Jesus." Do you know what a lot of these groups' response was when the Roman Empire started to dwindle, and when they started to defeat it? A lot of these groups decided to try and do socialism, tribal socialism, as I call it. Not tribal to mean pre-developed for a lot of those racist people out there. Tribal because it was built off the old sense of nation. Before Hegel's definition of the nation state, tribe was the definitive for how nation was marked out. That's why you saw I don't know what you would call it because it was before race, but like racism just seems like the easiest word to use. But like inter-racism between Anglo-Saxon groups in England, until eventually they found a way to consolidate these groups, and more so especially during the early 1000s when the 1000s began, because of the genocide they had, not just against the Celtic language but against a lot of the old Anglo-Saxon language, where they wanted to introduce Frankish, Normannic Frankish, and they wanted to bring in a Normanized version of Anglo-Saxon that obliterated a lot of the language's core basics. But yeah, no, Jesus was like Caleb's book is shit. I'll say that now for everyone. Caleb's book is shit, but Jesus was a communist. He's not wrong. Like, I disagree with the communists that get all salty about that. I don't know if communists remember, but communism is a Christian ideology, and the Christians when they come up with it, they based it off of the actions of Jesus Christ. Judah, not Judas, Judah, that's his name. Stop being anti Semitic. Judah was Jesus' most trusted compadre. He did not kill Jesus. The reason why he handled the money for the fucking the followers was because he was the only follower of Jesus who was working class like Jesus. All the rest of them were aristocrats. Judah was true to Jesus. Peter, however, Peter was denied by Jesus 5 times. He had spite towards Jesus. Saw him in a lens of hatred, especially when Jesus shut them down on so many occasions for how little they understood of him. So, and I mean, this is where Christianity spawned from. All of these snub-nosed dickheads who didn't understand him properly, and the one person who did quite understand Jesus, Judah, was silenced. Most of his writings made illegal, and his name changed to Judas, which means to stab one in the back. And
Where
go on.
where did that where did the original name Judas come from? Because
Judas
I
was a
mean, I
Roman
don't.
rewriting by the other disciples in Rome when they were rewriting the New Testament.
Yeah, it seems to be like, yeah, I don't know how many people know the difference between, I mean, like the distinction between Judas and Judah, but I've always
Judah literally
historically,
means the
I've always,
Jews. Like, Judah is the name of the
yeah,
Jewish people. That's why it's so
yeah,
Well,
distinct. They dethroned the Jewish name.
well,
yeah.
wasn't there another apostle though who had a similar name to Jude or Judas? Like I'm pretty sure there was one that was called Jude, as in Jude.
No, that's just
Um,
another interpretation of Judah. Judah was, or Jude, which is I think that's a Germanization of Judah. Um,
uh,
Judah is Judas. It's just Judas was a name that was added on afterwards, to anti-Semitically blame him for Jesus' death. Basically, a little handshake under the table between I think I can't remember all the disciples exactly, but I think it was Peter, John, and a few others. It's always said that one should read James before they read, people like Peter or Paul or James or John. Sorry, because James unravels things a little more.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned like Judas, because historically I've always, I mean, I don't know how, but I've always known him as Judah, the original English can't,
Pronunciation.
his original name, not the name that they came up with for him. So I don't know if it's like how well known that is, or I don't know. Sometimes these things are weird like that.
yeah.
My father actually knows Latin.
I
I don't know
I
how many
had
people know that.
I had a Christian lady come up to me and tell me and say that, like, she believes that, like, autistic people are God's chosen, like, people to be incredibly intelligent and really well knowing of knowledge and stuff like that. And it was like a really beautiful thing. I don't believe it, but it's a really beautiful thing. Like, Christians have found their own way to stop calling autism a vaccine related issue.
Yeah, yeah. Or you got like some of them, like that one guy who was that high-ranking Freemason who thought um, Lucifer was I don't know, it was some passage where he basically thought Lucifer was Lightbringer or something like that. I can't even remember. It's been a while
Yeah.
since I looked. Yeah, I know.
Lucifer means the same as Jesus.
Yeah.
So, where Lucifer comes from, to look at things from a historiographic perspective, Lucifer was used to write away the bits of the Bible they couldn't avoid, of things Jesus said they didn't like. That's why Jesus and them have the same name. They both mean the morning star. And there's like lost books where Jesus turns around and says he was the snake in the garden. That he told people to gain knowledge.
So he was engaging in constructive Satanism, is what you're saying.
There's a difference
Which
between being God and being the creator. Think about it like that. The New Testament is not the same as the fucking. The New Testament is not the same as the original Testament. When Jesus is talking about God, he's talking about the cosmic being that ties us all together, not the creator. They're different things. A lot of Oriental Christians still believe this, and it was very distinct to the original formulations of Christianity, like the Canaanites. Sorry, the Canaanites. I always stumble up on them because their territory is called Canaan. The Canaanites. So, like a lot of Christians used to believe that the Old Testament God was a devil, and that's where the devil comes from.
Not entirely 100% wrong on that one.
And it was Jesus that said it first. At least in the New Testament. Making some Yorkshire tea.
Nice.
Wait, this conversation has really been. You notice how like Caleb will always say like, "Oh, our streams we go all over the place." It's like he hasn't even seen half of it. He hasn't seen the full world, and it's like we cover everything here.
Right.
From religion to mopping to dangoids to all kinds of things.
It's like, yeah, we're all over the place, but we're more on topic than I am going to talk about Satanism. But let me just make it about the synthetic left again. It's like, well, I was hoping for an actual educational video on Liverian Satanism. Or maybe Caleb might know something that I don't. But no, he didn't even talk about Liverian Satanism.
Yeah, he did it.
He mentioned it and then went on a rant about Ayn Rand, which then ended up with him ranting about Trotskyists. And he always does this. He minimizes the civil rights era by talking about the white Trots and not talking about the black civil rights, Black Panthers. And, well, I mean, he talks about Frantz Fanon when he's shaming the guy.
Right. And B Liberal says that, like, the 70s wasn't revolutionary and all that. And then Caleb and the Pat Sox, they smeared the anti-war protesters as like hippies who smoke weed all day or something.
Yeah,
they're all just like
by the slime.
Yeah, we're all just they were all just a bunch of Charlie Manson clones and drug addicts and.
Oh, and like now
the guy who works with Jim Jones II.
Yeah, and now the new claim is that MK Ultra program like disseminated drugs all over
Yeah, a
hippie
program that was
places.
centered around LSD, and specifically LSD went around giving people weed. I'm like, not only am I not going to say no, I hope the weed was laced with LSD because that's based. Like, what the fuck, Caleb? Oh my god, they did drugs. Do I have to like show pictures
Yeah,
of fucking Stalin smoking weed and fucking statements of Bukharin, of Stalin coming in and dumping a big ounce of fucking skunk on his table and saying, "Yo, this is a gift from me and Lysenko," and fucking off? Like, do I have to bring this up?
yeah,
Stalin was a massive pothead. Fuck you, you pussyhole.
yeah. Somebody
Also,
actually
it's
did that.
cultural. Even fuck me, I don't come from these cultures where it's like a dictative thing where they tell you should fucking do it, like the Jewish and the Rastafari culture. And I still have a cultural spiritual interaction with the way that I use it and the way that I engage with it. Yeah, I have a medical one too,
Same here.
but there's more to it than just all these things are drug, because a lot of things are spiritual, even hallucinogenics. I'm not saying that marijuana, just because it's low taxonomic on your functionality, that therefore that's the only one that gets this relation. No, think about the native groups who have been using like different types of hallucinogenic flower and plant for years, or mushroom, because it's a part of their cultural interaction. It's something they do culturally. Because you can't shame them for that. And I've done hallucinogenics, and I did it fucking once. And that one time I did it, I opened my eyes from being a fucking far right douchebag to in a year's time I was a communist. That's top shit. So I ain't got a bad experience with them really, other than my whole world feeling like it had been crumbled apart and me having to learn places I'd been like a million times before because I felt like I'd never been there before, and all the trippy, horrible psychological shit that came with that. That was pretty nasty. But that was because I'm already not very healthy in the mind, so that was going to happen. Otherwise, it was quite revelating, and I got to learn about how horrible a lot of my positions were and how I could improve them. If other people could get that reaction,
Right.
good. What you want to be careful of are junkies. Like, whenever you look at like how native spiritual ritual works, they don't do it all the time. It's important that they do moderation, and that they do it at the most spiritualistic point that they can engage with it. People who do it all the time, whether it's microdosing or macrodosing, I don't care the difference. A lot of those people are fucking crazy, mate, because they fucking don't know what the ground is anymore. Like, you gotta be careful about how you go about these things, but it's not the end of the world if you fucking do them. Caleb Boppin sounds like someone who had a bad experience because someone lit a cigarette next to him once and he coughed.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that requires nuance though, and Caleb doesn't do that. Um,
Right.
speaking of Pat socks, I don't know if we want to talk about I don't know if we want to get into this or not. This may be a little bit off topic. I don't know, or maybe not. But the coming fascist legislation in the United States, like
The anti-trans
basically
legislation, the
you
anti-homeless
know,
legislation.
the whole you probably already heard about the Roe v. Wade thing. That's
Right.
um and people don't seem to get, like, this is literally like the whole point of it is literally just to legalize rape and murder of women. I mean, that's what people don't seem to get about it.
Right.
At least
Um,
normalize it, like, and
at least normalize it. Yeah.
because
Oh,
they'll use semantics. It really pisses me off because your emphatic use of language is perfect for what needs to be said, but they all use semantics against it. These people who are supposed to be communists. Caleb Moppin is a sexist piece of shit. He's a
yeah. I mean,
transphobic piece of shit, and he pushes
yeah.
like what has he done to defend trans people while Texas and fucking
Florida.
Florida are putting in anti-trans legislation as we speak.
Right. And I think Missouri or Kentucky, they put a legislation where they're gonna officially ban all forms of transitional, um, like like medical stuff, basically.
Yeah, and it's like I've touched on this topic, and I'm not even in fucking America. Like if it is something I need to do. I should be responsible and speak up to these issues that are hitting trans people. I need to get to the ones in Britain, but it's distinct that these not only these Americans, so they're closer to the issue, but these people who are much healthier, both physically, mentally, and everything other in between than I am, have no interest to touch on the issue. Actually, they try and deflect people that tell them they should touch the issue and get really erratic when they do it.
Yeah, and in Texas, by the way, about like 6 months ago, basically, the Supreme Court okayed a law where it had been in court for years, and then the Supreme Court was like, yeah, it can stay. But the
That
law
was
in
the that's the vigilante law that basically gives people basically vigilante ability to restrict, that hunt down pretty much whoever they
yeah,
suspect of abortion.
yeah, it's basically a bounty hunter law, and you can sue these women for abortion, and you can sue like anybody who helped them, including like Uber drivers, up to like $10,000 each, or the clinics,
Fucking
or a
hell.
doctor. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like doctors, clinics, Uber drivers, taxi drivers, maybe even the parents of like anything, yeah. Um, and even if the bounty hunter loses the case in civil court, he doesn't have to pay, or he or she doesn't have to pay any fines to the victim. Um, it's
Fucking
crazy.
bounty hunters. Oh wow, this is going really fucking 1900s.
Yeah,
Early 1900s America. We got the goddamn bounty hunters out. Go catch them goddamn black people stealing the goddamn corn. It's
yeah,
straight up like American racism all over again. Because what are they going to target? Obviously, they're going to target the black trans community first. Oh, and Native
Yep.
Americans who have had transgender, not all of them, but a lot of native cultures have had transgender understanding in them for ages, and because the different native tribes, everyone tries to preach that they were quite separate. No. In America, they interacted with each other a hell of a lot. So a lot of them already had like normalized, even if they didn't have it in their culture, they were normalized to it. It's not something that was drastically mad to them that was going to make them lose their shit. Because most native tribes knew that they were on Turtle Island, which came from them scaling the island, like different native groups scaling the island and trying to predict what the shape is, and they figured it was the
right.
shape of a turtle.
Yeah, I don't know. I always try to get out of the American exceptionalist mindset, so I can only imagine that this kind of shit, like the anti-trans and anti-abortion legislation, is also is ramping up in other states. I can't
Yeah,
specifically talk about Great Britain or anything like that, but I know places like Poland, which is an EU country,
yeah, Hungary.
um, Hungary.
In
I
Britain,
think there was a case
legislation
in.
is already loose enough that doctors basically get to choose. So the doctor gets to
For
choose whether
abortion.
you're quote trans enough end quote to go through it.
Oh, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think in Japan, uh, they just uh, you have to be sterilized. Literally, I'm not even joking. They just straight up
Jeez.
said, yeah, that's the law.
That's horrible. What
Yeah,
if you were a trans woman who did want to keep your jibbly bits and you wanted to have kids? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. What the fuck?
yeah. It's really insane. It's disgusting, evil, and um yeah.
It is
I think
disgusting.
Malta, the country of Malta, which is part of the EU, a little island near Italy, they still have abortion banned completely, utterly. Um, um, yeah. Oklahoma is actually going to pass a similar law as Texas regarding abortion. but I heard that's going to be a little bit worse. But I have to relook at the details. Um, the other problem that's coming up now is that once the Supreme Court makes their official ruling on Roe versus Wade, um, it'll give leeway to basically like, so there's like at least 12 states that pass legislation where abortion will be banned only if the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade. So it's like a, I don't know what you want to call it, like a deadlock timer or whatever. And so the moment it happens, abortion will be outlawed like by a snap.
Half the
Once the
country.
ruling. Yeah, 12 states really. Um,
Yeah, and oh, and they've also this hasn't been talked about either. They're also targeting the regulatory state too. So it's like even the thing that's keeping capitalism going, they've literally just been these
right.
nutcase judges. Yeah, uh, that
Yeah,
one judge made that ruling that apparently you can't regulate speculation on Wall Street or something like that, or it's like which is
yeah,
literally the thing keeping capitalism going. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like literally, just straight up, like
yeah, they were like the judge was attacking the SEC, the commission that like barely does anything at all. um,
yeah, they ruled it was unconstitutional or something insane like that. Um, because America has, this insane judicial system where judges can rule,
right,
something. It's common law, that bullshit.
right. Well, I mean, the Supreme Court is an oligarchy. That's what it is, you know. Oh, and like speaking about like abortion and LGBT rights, Moppin recently he went on a tirade, calling pro-choice protesters college radical feminists and saying that they're sheeps who just watch MSNBC and that abortion isn't really being banned. Um, and that they're just like shilling for Margaret Sanger, which is like some like right wing talking point. Um, yeah,
Sorry, I'm on my phone.
My my retort to that would basically be, um, like the SpongeBob meme with Patrick and SpongeBob. Squidward enters the room in his closet, and they think Squidward is dead. So they have like a open casket that they have, and Squidward just screams when he sees it, and then they say, "Okay, get in." That's basically my answer to Moppin on this.
right,
Literally, just get the fuck in. If
right.
you're if you're saying that you're a communist and you're advocating this kind of shit, like literally, okay, I won't. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I know somebody personally. I'm not gonna say who. This is a relative. Um, and I got to be careful because they told me this at a very young age. So, I'm still fucking traumatized when they told me this. But they were basically gang raped by a bunch of men, and had a plunger shoved up their ass.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah. And they told me that at a very fucking young age.
That's nasty business.
Yeah, yeah, it's fucked up.
Aye.
And that happened to like what? I think like a quarter of all women are molested at a young age or something like that. It's some insane statistic I heard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's happened to a lot of people I know. It's
Yeah.
a commonality, very big commonality.
And probably even more so in the lower Lumpen-Maoist classes. But yeah, that's the kind of shit that Mountain is promoting.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's it. These people are speaking from a world that is uh, not so much exempt of these conditions. So, of course, women in the middle class exceptionally do end up getting molested in other certain situations, but it is minimalized to a point where it is not as effectively a problem to people. They can turn themselves off to it. They can switch off their brain. They can go home at night and feel comfortable about it. I lived in an area where when I go home at night, you could at certain times of the month or week or year, it wasn't really date specific. It was just maybe every now and then you're gonna end up hearing people screaming outside because they're being fucking stabbed or they're being raped or or a domestic violence situation has gone outside the house and there's a woman trying to flee her abusive partner. All sorts of mad things because rough area, rough problems. The world is full of oppression in the lower class that has not been dealt with, and the problem that comes into it is that the people who are oppressed by it, the lumpen proletariat, are the ones who are being accused of being the oppressors of it by people like Caleb. Now you take the lumpen proletariat, because the thing about it, where's his problem? His problem's at drug users, not drug dealers.
Yeah.
Not got a problem with the lumpen bourgeoisie and the lumpen petty bourgeoisie and the lumpen aristocracy. It's all about the lumpen proletariat. Drug users
Yeah.
instead of drug dealers. And then when he does attack drug dealers, he attacks them in a way where it would actually end up attacking like revolutionaries who also used it. So he does it in a really off the cuff manner that's really generalistic and obviously disingenuous.
Yeah, he does it in like the same way that the ow, the Nazis the Nazis would talk about like oh, there's an evil bad group of capitalists and they're all Jewish and they're colonizing Germany and we need to expel them.
Oh, like the
But the good,
British.
yeah, yes, the British in quotes.
Come on, man. They've run America since 1810. 1810, they took power, and now America is a Britain is Britain. Bottom text.
Yep.
Same place. You're all a bunch of Angloids.
But I can just say to Caleb, like, if you're pushing American socialist patriotism, right now, I can tell you, if you think that the average person wants to hear that, you're out of your fucking mind.
After the
Like, I mean, look at
patriotism
it.
was just
Look,
used to start war after war after war.
yeah. I mean, look at America right now. I mean, we're literally descending straight into fascism. It's like a free free rolling coaster. It's been going on for a while. It like really, I mean, it's always been kind of there, but it really started with 9/11, and now with like this Roe v. Wade shit and trans shit, it's just we've jumped the
The
proverbial shark
illegalization
now.
of homelessness, not just illegalization,
Yeah,
making it a felony-based crime,
yeah, just straight up, just make homeless people
destroying people's
illegal.
lives entirely. You get a felony, you basically can't get a job. Lumpen Celt's
Yeah,
gone. I do believe Lumpen Celt. What's it? They got experience with that shit. They know how to speak to that. But
yeah, we're one step away from concentration camps for homeless people.
well, it's like Mr. Hilter, the whole joke in Monty Python, where it'll be concentration camps.
Yeah. Um.
I am
Yeah.
not a racist, but
But, and that's what Caleb always does. But,
yeah, it's always a
but.
but. It's like I'm not Islamophobic, but it's like, oh no. If you're gonna be fucking reactionary and try and hide it, try and hide it. Like, don't just say I'm not reactionary. But it's like you're just saying but, so you're saying, oh, but you agree with them on something. What's coming next? So he's not Islamophobic, but, and then he goes and defends Trump's fucking Muslim ban. I give
Yeah,
it
Or
only a few more years.
he
It's
he
funny
kept
how
talking
Star
about
Trek predicted all this
well, I
back in the
mean,
90s.
yeah, and or he'll defend Le Pen very stealthily. Um,
yeah.
I see what he does there. He he's very he knows what he's doing. I can tell him that. I can tell you that much. I wouldn't be shocked in the future, like when things just keep getting worse and worse. So the year is 2030 or whatever, and France has an election between Le Pen, the moderate, versus Action Francais, and Caleb Schilling for Le Pen or something.
Right.
And I mean, like, Doxanovia's got on some very important points in here with how, like, colonized women will get crushed by the Roe v. Wade situation more than anyone. It's really hard. That one is a r, and I say r with a W style pronunciative. It's a Northern English dialect phenomena. Um, and then it's W at the other side. So like it's easy to just go Roe v. Wade, instead of a Roe v. Wade. Um, but there's women who literally cannot have children, who will literally die and possibly be forced to go to prison over something that's not their fault. The people would have supported America's genocidal war against the Vietnamese. It's fucking disgusting. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They supported America's war against the Vietnamese. This will affect women who have had multiple miscarriages. This law is literally enabling genocide against women, against poor black women. Uh,
But come on, man. American socialist patriotism. Get out the flag, start being patriotic. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like we all need to become patriots now. Don't you love America? Aren't you
Rule
proud to be American?
America, America rules the gays.
Yeah, well, Caleb now tries to say that supporting abortion is like Malthusian, but he has to say that, well, a lot of people who support abortion just want depopulation, and like it's so outrageous.
And he says that while supporting China.
And
Right.
these guys are literally turning around and going, well, obviously I'm a socialist, so I support these things, but, and it's like, oh,
But
they're
Right.
homophobes, they're transphobes. Caleb turned around and called homophobia bourgeois decadence, like not saying that was just what Stalin said. He didn't say it in the
Right.
context that it was just what Stalin thought and he disagreed. He just said outright that it's bourgeois decadence, which agrees a lot
Uh,
with what Dugan believes. Dugan sees homosexuality as bourgeois decadence.
yeah. And Caleb, he just 2 hours ago he tweeted out that he blamed live stream difficulties supposedly, and that he had to private his live stream tonight. So
on what?
We need to
What
get
did he blame
someone
it
to
on?
fucking. We need to get someone to subscribe to his Patreon to get on that fucking get on them subscriber live streams and just record them all and send me them. So I'll just upload
right.
them.
All right, I'll get on it. Give me a second. No,
Like
I mean
I'll
I
make a
literally
separate
probably
YouTube
could.
channel so we can't strike this channel when I do it as well.
I mean, I literally could probably do that. I've seen at least a few of his private live streams, and he mostly just goes on like rants about other people. That's where he talks about
Right.
people like Luna Oi and PSL and Jason, and he
Gee.
saves those
Yeah,
for
this is where you will hear him actually directly insult Jason rather than do it on the sly.
Right.
Because he'll feel more comfortable in his little hole with his private live stream. Like, these people think that if you price things up high enough, you will just stop anyone getting in. And it kind of works because, like I say, he starts at $8. No working person, especially no lumpen person, is going to turn around and go, yeah, $8 for one live stream a month. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
$8 I can watch, like, them for free near enough every day. Actually, he does do it every day pretty much.
Yeah, he does now. I mean, he does like 5 or 6 a week.
But then you're asking for $8 for one.
Right.
Motherfucker.
It's like, yeah, like 5 or 6 times a week, but we're also supposed to believe he's working class too, right?
Well,
Because
come on,
working
man. Everyone was
class
doing the
people.
sorrow thing for him. I got really pissed off with people when they were all going like, "Oh yeah, I feel solidarity with you because you lost your job over all that." It's like, A, RT International exists. B,
Yeah.
he's petty bourgeoisie. He has a bank full of money. His dad's a trust worker, like trust manager. Well, for
Right.
several different trusts in his past, and has built up a lot of money because of it, and just goes around rock climbing and shit now, like
And that's
Gordon
interesting.
Morpin.
It's interesting you mentioned the RT thing because when he got fired from RT America when it closed down, he didn't mention it on his YouTube channel at all.
And he was still posting his RT International work. So
And
like,
Right.
didn't
like the
even
fact that
mention it. Yeah.
anyone was pushing the Sorrow thing for him, even people who were oppositional to him, I find it sus that they behave like that because A, why are you giving fucking any consolement to that dickhead? And B, are they fucking stupid? Like, I was born yesterday and I can fucking see Wagwan, so like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically like, it's like the whole, who was that chili? No, I cannot for the life of, chili. Jesus. The
Barchuk?
people from the country of Chile. How do you say their
Chilean.
Chilean.
Chilean? Jesus Christ.
Or you can
I
be
was
funny and say Chilean. That will really
I
piss
was
them
I
off.
was saying I was saying church Chilean or something like that. But
Chileans.
Uh,
Fucking hell.
you
That was
remember that?
one of those
Yeah.
autism speech moments where it just goes diabolically wrong. Like when you go to say something and you say the complete opposite. Always happens when you're talking about something like Palestine and Israel, where saying the opposite will fucking get you in trouble.
Like yeah. But do you remember that one so-called journalist guy from who supposedly disappeared in
oh
Ukraine or
yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
everybody on like
what
lefty.
what well he's a dual citizen. He was like on Gonzalo Lira or Lira Gonzalo. He's
Yeah,
like he was living in New York City. He was an alt-righter type, and then he moved to Ukraine. And he does these like weird. His YouTube channel is like all about like, it's like those dating guys who like talk smack about women. Um, and then he pretended to be a journalist when the war broke out.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then he like logged out, like he went offline for 7 days, and the whole internet was like I don't know,
Yeah,
making
Jason
him
had
like a
to be told
martyr.
Wagwan was a geezer because so many people were trying to push this guy as a left winger. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? This guy's a fascist.
right.
A guy who tweets in favor of Pinochet and Holocaust
Yeah,
denial and straight up despises
Like,
women.
like we're talking.
Like,
We're
yeah,
not. We're not accusing him of Holocaust denial. He literally did Holocaust denial. Like, we're not
yeah,
fucking about here. Like,
yeah,
if I could be
yeah,
asked, I'd go harvest Twitter for the fucking. Go back about like a month and a half, 2 months ago on Twitter. Anyone who can be asked, not in the stream. I mean, people who want to find us out. And look up this fucking Gonzalo geezer and it's all this
He
shit about it.
his
Fucking bollocks.
he used to go.
Hello, Logan. How's it going? Then? Sorry, go on.
Oh, he used to go by Coach Red Pill. That was his like nickname.
Yeah, yeah, and the
I
problem
hate the
is
fact that the red pill has been stolen from us. We need to take that language back. Right
Right.
wingers are blue pillars. Well, actually, no.
yeah,
Some
they're
of them are taking the red pill for their own means. I mean, we need to understand the red pill as someone that doesn't make you. I mean, the Matrix explained this. It doesn't make you left or right. It just makes you aware, class conscious. So we got
yeah.
to know that the aristocracy, they are red pilled, and when they're becoming like this, but they're against us. That's
They're
their
basically
thing. They are organized against us, but they are class conscious.
the labor aristocracy is basically who's the guy in the first movie who meets with Agent Smith and the other guys, and he basically says, I got out of the Matrix, but I don't like it. I wanna betray my comrades because I want to go
Wanted
back
to
and
indulge in capitalist realism and become part of the Matrix again.
yeah, that's basically them.
Selling out the revolution.
Yeah,
The Matrix is about class consciousness and about being transgender. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Both sides of that are really inspiring as well. Like for people who have what's it? People who have been through sort of oppression at them. Sort of sorry, I can't English well on this issue. Uh, I got my own unresolved tensions, but the in regards to not just the transgender issue, but also in regards to people who have been discriminated sexually or genderly.
yeah, and we also got to remember too when that movie was made, um, the underground rave scene was considered like some criminal, like just straight up like we need to like have them all rounded up and basically shot. Like that was what like Joe Biden was ranting about, like raves and having them all rounded up, and we need legislation against it. So that was pretty edgy for its time. I don't know about today in 2022, but
Have you watched the new one yet, or are you still waiting to watch that?
I I'm gonna watch it. Okay, so I
Do you
am
want to
going to
make the
watch
time
it.
so you can watch them all together? Because I know what the Matrix is like. I
Yeah.
did it when I went to
Okay.
watch it. I had to watch all three again.
Okay, so I'm gonna set up a date for Friday because I had to go to a convention last I went somewhere and then put my laptop on top of my car and then drove off, and
See,
I'm
if
sorry.
YouTube wouldn't just
it's
instantly shut
okay.
it down, it would be fun to do it as a stream, but YouTube will actually shut the stream down before it finishes.
Uh,
Yeah, well, I look at it this way, like it's a good way to upgrade my laptop now because I was looking to get a new one, so
You know
that
what?
promoted
If you
me to get a
want
new
to
one.
get like a gaming PC, I always tell people to go for a laptop because you can make a laptop that is as powerful as a gaming PC. Yeah, do you know what? The battery will within a year will not work as something that you can use it as a mobile thing, but it's a 16 gigabyte device. You're not gonna get a very small. You're not gonna get a small battery for it that's gonna last very fucking long, regardless. So, you got your 16 gigabyte RAM, you gotta wanna have your fucking 4-core processor, all that, everything that you would expect for a computer in a laptop. It's gonna cost you a little less than the computer. Don't bother with a fancy graphic card. I've got a 970 in this. I got given this computer for free, so I'm at a pompous advantage on this one because an American just gave me a laptop. But the don't bother with a fancy graphics card. My 970 is perfect. Like genuinely, get a 970. Maybe get the 10. I can't remember what the 10 one is, but get the one that's after the 970. But the 970, perfect. It's fine. It does everything. I play War Thunder with great graphics. Yeah, I can't do all the super fucking graphics crap, but who needs that shit? PS2 graphics were based. Like, he just play things on potato mode. But 970 is actually really fucking good. Like, I say it like I'm telling you to get a shit graphics card, but it's actually a good graphics card. Like, fuck what all the
When,
PC nerds say. It's a
well, I actually
workhorse.
did get I got a new laptop actually Monday. But that's interesting you say that because the laptop I got has a 16 gigabyte, and it's a laptop, and it's a gaming laptop too, with a moderately okay graphics, nothing fancy, but you know.
I mean,
So
the
that's
laptop
interesting.
ones are different to the computer ones anyway, because they're eyes instead of, because mine's a 970i.
I have a Raspberry Pi, 400, but it's not really that usable.
I mean, the laptop I've got, like, if it was set up for Linux as well, it would be even more. But you got to know what you're doing. I wouldn't use Linux because I don't know what I'm doing with it. But if you know what you're doing, you get
Mm.
Linux running on this. You're fucking laughing. Like, super fast computer. Depending on
Right.
which form of Linux you use. I mean, Windows can be
Well,
really quick. One thing I want to get is I want to get an old IBM to run Windows 98 on. Or maybe Windows. I might go for Windows XP or
yeah,
Vista because it's a little more modern. But 98 is great because you've got the old floppy drive support.
right.
Um, the Fat
The Raspberry
16.
Pi is basically like a distro of Linux, of like Debian. Yeah,
I mean, like, because I would like to sort of like basically move it that I don't even play my Fallout games, like Fallout 1 and 2, on this computer. I play it on an old IBM ThinkPad because that would just be cool and retro as fuck. Like, get one of them for
uh,
cheap. It's still running, and all I have to do is clear it up, do a fresh install of Windows on it, and it would be like it's came out of the factory. The thing should be fine, and getting replacement chips and parts and stuff wouldn't be the worst of things. It'd just be something that, because I don't have much money, I'd have to very, very, very slowly do over time, which I don't have a problem with. Like, when you've been brought up with the teaching of having to be patient when it comes to get things, you get a bit used to that. But my bipolar makes me a bit too overspendy at times as well. Um, there's like there's multiple reasons as to why I'm in debt. Some of it is because I'm a bit of a fucking twat when it comes to money, especially when it comes to like food shopping. Like, I've spent myself into the grave once because I've gone and shopped at a more expensive shop and I've gone and bought fuckloads, and because I've already gone and picked it up and got it all, I've just gone and paid for it because fuck it. Bipolar
And
is not a useful thing for shopping. Just make
does
you're either depressively shopping, so you're not buying enough, or you're manic shopping, so you're just grabbing everything.
it doesn't help too. You got inflation, and you got like gas and food prices have just like shot. Did look
I
look at
get,
this
I
right
get,
here.
I get about
Dr-
6 grand a year. That's the most I'd ever get for me to spend, and
Look
that's not
look at this.
including all the bills that are being taken out of my money at the moment because of the situation I'm in. But I get about 6 grand a year.
You gotta see this. Okay, so Doritos nacho cheese, 9.25 ounces. Do you know how much it costs?
$3.
Take a guess. $3? You're not even close.
Six.
5.59.
Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. That's like fucking £3 fifty.
Yep, and
How
they're
much is
they're
9 ounce in grams? Oh wait, I should know this.
uh.
So it's 200 grams in an ounce, isn't it?
I'll just use the
I
calculator.
think. No,
yeah,
it's not, is it?
200
No.
grams is an ounce.
It's 200 pounds for an ounce.
I'm not using my brain right now, so I'll use a
Okay, so
calculator.
it's 28 gram in an ounce. Or is it 36? It's either 28 or 36. I think it's 28. 28 grams times 9. 8 times 9 is. Uh, take off 8 from 8 times 8, so it's 72. So 720. No, it is 72. Sorry, 72. And then 20 times 9 would be 180. 180 plus 72. 252, maybe. That doesn't sound very sure. 252 grams. That's what I'm going off. If it is 28 grams in an ounce, but I get it muddled.
I did a simple Google search. It's so 9.25 ounces. That will be 262 grams.
Oh, so adding on the extra 0.25, I probably was right with my 90 grams. Sorry, my 9 ounces is 252 grams.
Yeah, but the point is basically like the inflation has gone off the fucking rails, and that's not even counting like the baby formula, the shortage, the
I've been
COVID
talking
thing
about
that
this. Milk is gonna go up, butter's gonna go up. Like, you go to an Aldi. I'm sure it's the same in America. You can get a bar of butter. You can get a tub of butter pretty cheap. But if you go to a corner shop or like a local groceries, and you go there and you look at the butter prices, and you go to like a floor or somewhere, and it's gonna cost you like nearly £3 for uh fucking 500 grams of butter, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? It's still gonna cost you about £3. You're looking at like a kilogram, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And so the way that like they so supermarkets, the price varies compared to the other store locations that you're dealing with. So inflation is normally shuffled off to the lower businesses. So the things that get hit first are the small businesses and the big conglomerate local grocery and corner shops. We call them corner shops here. I mean, America probably is. I think it's like, I think it is like the local grocers or whatever the fuck. But your Quickie Mart style stores, to put it into a culturally relevant thing that we all understand. We all know The
yeah,
Simpsons. Your Quickie Marts. Um,
Wawa's. Yeah,
I mean, the thing in the show is actually used like a stereotypical corner shop in Britain, so it's perfect. But those are the places that end up getting hit first. Then it hits the supermarkets, and inflation always flops and rises like this. And there's always certain things that they try and pin at a certain price. They always try and keep milk and butter close to around £1 for a kilogram of butter and £1 for 4 pints of milk. But these things rise up. It's gone from being quite literally £1 for 4 pints of milk to £1.45, which is what it used to cost at the corner shop. And the corner shop is having to raise things up to like £2 for or nearly £2 for 4 pints of milk. Get two for £4. That's the way of sorry, no, get two for £2 as a way of squashing it down and bringing it down to £1 again because you're taking two. But if you're only taking one, it's gonna cost you nearly the £2. So it's and everyone will be like, oh yeah, but you're getting it the same price then, aren't you? But you're being forced to have to buy two to even get it at the same price. It's a way of messing with people, so they're spending more money regardless. Because a lot of this shit just gets thrown away. So at the end of the day, they are manipulating you to get more money.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm working here in retail, and it's basically like I wanted to get and this is my own job, so I'm literally buying something at my own place. So I'm literally like, I wanted to get some aloe and some sunscreen because I got some bad sunburn on my neck, So I wanted to get some aloe and some sunscreen, and they're both on sale for buy one get one half off. So I'm just like, hey, I want to buy this and get it half off. I had to pay the full price for both of them because they weren't the same exact brand.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it has to be the same exact brand, even though it's the same sale price, like the same sale.
I mean, you think as well,
Getting
because they're
crazy.
on sale, that means that they're overstocked. So I'm surprised that the guy at the till didn't turn around and just let you have it because you work there, like, as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they're gonna throw away a lot of these things, because that's what sales normally imply, is that eventually they're just gonna chuck shit.
Yeah. But that's the kind of shit that they're doing. Yeah.
And it's all about cotton people in and getting people caught in a trap, or getting people to buy the next bigger thing that's on the list because they can get a slightly cheaper deal on it because they'll knock the percentage off. So the 6 pint bottles of milk, they'll knock the percentage off on them. Don't know if you Americans get 6 pointers.
Oh, probably get like a quart, I guess, or
They're the ones that are in the big fucking jugs. They're like a
no,
fucking
those are the
whiskey
gallon
jug.
ones, I think.
I don't know how many pints there are in a gallon, you know.
I don't know. It's all sort of merged together for me at this point. Like
So
I
we
use
get
all
we
of them
get
interchangeably.
we get everything from a 1 pinter all the way up to a 6 pinter. I
I know what a
I'm sure
pint
there's 10
is, but
pints
yeah.
in a gallon, like, or something like that, or 9 pints. I don't know. Like, I don't know my gallons. Like, I never had to really learn them. Petrol's always been done in liters, as far as I'm concerned. The only time I've ever seen gallon is miles to the gallon. Otherwise, I don't touch the gallons. Me no touchy gallons. Me no. uh, so in England, it's half imperial, half metric. So you don't end up really learning all of the other side of things. I mean, people still wrongly use decimals in when using inches, when inches actually works as in fractions. Why did I go all Smeagol then? The inches they works as in fractions, you see.
Well, that's kind of like in America too. We have something similar, where you have like both sides of the ruler. One is imperial, the other is whatever the fuck it's called.
Metric, the Euro shit as we call it here in UK. I mean, at the end of the day, like, America and Britain are both half and half of it, but America acts like it's not, and it's cringe. Like,
Right.
you guys have been using millimeters since the 1920s. Like, one of the reasons as well that you guys kept millimeters and inches and millimeters on the go, metric and imperial, was because you could distinctify things. So, like, to distinctify the two 3-inch guns for the M4 Sherman, which were both called the 3-inch gun. One was the 75, one was called the 76. Well, actually, they were both 75 point whatever millimeters 3 inches is. Like, they were both the same size gun. They actually both used the same size projectile. They just needed to make them distinct so people didn't get confused with logistics. So they used millimeters to be distinct because 3 inches is between 75 and 76 millimeters. But it says 76.2 on some things. So it's like, no, it's a 75 millimeter gun. It's they might have called it the 76, but it's not. It's a lie. But I mean, it's a useful little tool. I like using both. I know it's inefficient and probably wrong, and we probably should stop. But I think it's characteristical to sort of employ with the both. And I think my Americans would agree. I know that the people who've been looking in kilometers all their life will turn around and say the obvious point of, yeah, because it's what we're used to. But it's easier to visualize distance in miles than it is in fucking kilometers. And kilometers are
Yeah,
nice and even. Like, kilometers are nice and even. I'm autistic. That sounds like the perfect thing for someone like me, and I still like looking at things in miles.
yeah. A lot of this stuff is going to require socialist re-education because I'm
You'll never
so
catch me. I'll use Imperial to the day I die. Sorry, I'm just about.
they gotta make though an exception for some of us because
We're old.
I'm an
news.
old time. I'm basically like my grandparents now. Like, did I ever tell you the
Fibromyalgia
story
has
of my
made me into a fucking old man. A
grand?
walking stick, everything.
Did I ever tell you my grandparents what they did with their computer that they got? They had their computer, but they had like a little um thing that covered it and never used it once. It was just literally sitting in their house every time I came.
Is it one of them old
And
computers from the 90s?
yeah, it was one of those old ones from the 90s, but they never used it. They never touched it once.
Have they still got it?
Well, they sold the house a while ago, so who knows what happened to it. And they're dead now, so.
Because those things are fucking neat. They are like fucking hell. Like your grandparents missed out on like the coolest era of computing, in my opinion.
Yeah. They
Unfortunately,
also
they're
had
gone. Nasty.
they also had a washer for dishes that they used to store snacks and food.
The dishwasher
They didn't
was the
actually
snack
use it.
food storage bin. Sounds like one of those
No, it was just
autistic fucking reuses of something you're no longer using anymore. It's like, I'm no longer using this. How do I create this into something more fashionable? Like, most people would have just, like, thrown out the dishwasher. I love that.
and the crazy part is I'm still using that dishwasher to this day. And it's still the same old dishwasher that I used to take out snacks as a kid with.
And now
So
it's
it's like
washing
it's come
dishes
full
again.
circle.
That's days. I've said that what's it to help with my disability. I need to get myself a dishwasher because it just helps keep me functional, everything nice and sorted, and nothing's affecting my independence and how I deal with myself. Because that's the thing with the disabled. It's all about how much can we secure our independence and become more functional. We don't want to lose our independence. People don't understand this with the disabled.
Yeah. Yeah, it yeah, they wanna make it so that um disabled people are dependent. And just have to
Private
always like
resources now. The social services here don't provide state given support. It's all through private companies that you have to pay for.
that
Even
sounds
if you don't
great.
have your disability benefits. Like I don't. Like I say,
Yeah,
I'm
you just
I'm living on the benefits they give you for when you're sick from work. That's what I'm living on. Like you're sick and you can't work benefits, not you're disabled support benefits, because they don't do the disability living allowance anymore. It's PIP, and in PIP, even my fucking oh, good night, Logan. Even my I can do pretty good impression of Gollum and Smeagol from Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Oh, that's pretty based. Um, so with PIP, even my mental health worker turned around. Sorry, my care coordinator turned around and said, that I should that regardless of how severe your disabilities are, you have to lie to get PIP. Like you have to fucking play an absolute moron.
yeah. I mean that's kinda like here in the United States, like you gotta go to like a judge or whatever. Um
Fucking
and they will deny you for any reason, no matter what. Trust me, I know I've been denied.
our
I
brother,
mean,
fucking our brother Doxanovia. He's got relatives who have been literally turned around and said that they're not retarded enough. Those words exactly. Not retarded enough when being assessed at one point. What the actual fuck?
see, this is how I know how internalized the anti-disabled kind of thing is. That I don't even like
Yeah,
blink
how
at
many
that
Marxists
anymore.
have you come across that have been so fucking spiteful towards disabled people and had a condescending view on them? Like, in the first world, so many of them. And especially when you're engaging with all these fucking tossers on like YouTube and Discord and all this crap. Like they're all full of it.
Yeah, but didn't you listen to Be Liberal? Caleb never mentioned disabled people once, so checkmate.
Yeah, oh yeah, but he's literally
No,
talking about the Lumpen proletariat, which is primarily disabled, primarily colonized.
and even if he doesn't, his fans sure do.
Oh yeah,
Like go to
oof.
like what the video that Socialism for All did. Who was that fucking guy? Prism? Did you see the tweet with him
Yeah,
about Maoist?
yeah, it was Prism. I could find the tweet for you, but basically, are you talking about the Trump Mao tweet?
Yeah, he's that one idiot that sometimes is in Jason Unruh's YouTube comment section.
Oh, what, from the mailbag?
Yeah, he's one of those cranks.
Yeah, I found the tweet from Jason's timeline. I'll read it to the audience for everybody. So
Get
what
ready.
Prism out. Trumpism is Maoism. Trump's movement is a Maoist movement. Rural mass is Trump, urbanite decadence, and elitism.
Okay,
No,
okay,
you.
and you know the best part about all this? You know, the big irony in all this? This guy is supposedly I think he's an Iranian American or something.
Yeah,
I think
allegedly.
he lived
No, it's always depressing.
allegedly.
It's always depressing when third world people are manipulated by these clowns, or are choosing to be disingenuous and join in the manipulation that these clowns are creating, because we can't absolve other groups of possibilities of being engaged in the evil that's going on here. The actual evil
Yeah.
that's going on here, for all this preach of Satanism being constructive criticism.
I would like to ask Prism, what do Trump supporters think of Iranians? And you'll get a very interesting response. Trust me.
1 second though. Xi Jinping is the new Mao. Now Trump's the new Mao. They're gonna make their mind up.
Well,
To be fair, Xi
uh,
Jinping was the one
technically,
who tried to create that ideology around him. That's why he styles his fucking himself in that fashion. He tries to get that look out of him. But here's a thing that makes him look so distinct from Mao. Not only the fact that he presents a dissonance in the way that he puts himself out there that makes me feel there's something really fucking wrong in his head. But secondly, when have you ever seen Mao wear a suit with a tie?
Right.
When have
true.
you ever seen him dress like an American or British businessman?
And oh, to be fair to Prism, in the comments section, he did say he was specifically talking about the Trump movement and not Trump himself.
Trump
Um,
is Mao
But
Zedong.
it's
right.
still
It
just
doesn't
as
matter. I'm
stupid.
going to gaslight him. Sorry.
I've actually seen some Pat socks, including Be Liberal, say that Maoism is bad for Marxist Leninism, and that it actually like brings it down. And I don't know.
I think the worst is probably Haas saying he's a Maoist.
Oh shit.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
At that point, I just want to get like the shotgun sawed off and put it in my mouth and go, oh.
And yeah, when he was
Not just to shoot myself, but just pretend to shoot myself and just kind of go.
I thought I accidentally
Eh,
hit stop streaming, then I had a panic attack.
when he was attacking women recently, he was telling a feminist to read Hegel and Lacan.
No one should ever have to read Hegel. I think Marxists who read Hegel are fucking depressing and should stop. Think about what they're doing. If they need to read
Yeah.
Hegel to understand dialectics, I don't think they should be a Marxist. They should go join fucking the Nazis or something, because that's fucking benign. Like what?
Right.
I looked at a paragraph of Hegel once, and I said, no, I'm never reading this guy. No, he takes a whole page. Like, I'm a ramblesome dickhead. I do not take a whole page to make one fucking point. Like, not a digressive point where he's explained his point and you know loads about it. No, you know one thing by the end of it, and he said a lot of stuff for you to know this one thing. It's like when Caleb
Yeah.
speaks and he takes fucking 5 minutes just to tell you that
Yeah.
Ayn Rand is bad. Like not with good examples. Just Ayn Rand is bad, and then reads like some quotes from a books, and then goes on like a ramble about like Satanism and the Trotskyists. I don't know, like Nietzsche. I the Nazis. Sometimes he says good stuff. Like, I won't shoot him down entirely on this. Like, he's right. Ayn Rand is bad. It is evil. Like, I won't laugh at him for saying it's evil, like most people will. The one thing I will laugh at is that he's so anti. He's against people using moralistic terms, but then he's a moralistic fuckhead himself. So, English noises will be the subtitle. If I could be asked to do subtitles, but I let the automatic thing do it, and unfortunately, YouTube isn't that funny. It would be funny if YouTube had a sense of humor with its AI at least, just so that the new coming domination of the AI fuckers will be one that we can at least have some fun with, you know. But no, the subtitles will just probably go
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
And
I did my praise Satan thing during the Satanism video while I was going around. What's it? That's a confirmed Christian praises Satan on the stream. It's the Catholics all along. Oh no, he's a prot. He might think that. Shit. I'm gonna cause him to blame Catholics now for
the
Satan.
problem is though is that he's got Keaton Mansfield there, so he can't really say that as well.
Well,
He's got
calling Keaton Mansfield a Catholic is a stretch. Well, like, I mean, a Roman Catholic.
oh shit. Yes.
Like, he puts the Roman in Roman Catholic. Fucking. Oh, that sounds like a compliment to him. I hope he knows that in socialist circles, that is an insult to most people. You don't want to be a Roman. I don't know if they know this, but Marx and Lenin both wrote about Rome being a horrible thing, not a good thing. Like, Marx was a tricky guy because he was like, well, yeah, it was economically progressive, and it's like he's being a bit of a contrarian with it though, because it's like, well, was it economically necessary? Because that's not the question he answers. Everyone thinks that's the question he answers. It's not. He just says it was economically progressive and that it developed economic institutions. He did not really distinguish economic necessity. He may have said that it was economically necessary in the process that we've developed to now, because it would be, because it's a part of the history of it. So, yeah, the Roman Empire is economically necessary to capitalism's development. But the question about capitalism being necessary for socialism was never really properly answered. He kept flip-flopping. I mean, in the 1948 German Revolution, he tried to skip capitalism and do a socialist revolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not like, it's not like 1-2. It's not like we had to like be like, okay, we just have to keep going in like this like step by step process, and here we go from here to here to here. I mean, that was literally the whole point of like the Bolshevik Revolution with fucking Lenin and Stalin. Was literally he wanted to speed up the 200-year gap that they had with the West, like England and the United States, and industrialize without having to go through fucking, sweatshops and shit like that.
The disrespect of what's it? I would scratch this up to actually the disrespect from the what's it, the atheist crowd. So since the Soviet Union emerged, everything was taken away from Christianity's contribution to the existence of communism and its importance there. So the Soviet Union and the Paris Commune and the social dissidents of the English Revolution and these other different groups that cropped up over time, they weren't the first. The first big revolution that was sort of marked in history that sparked everyone up was the Galilean movement. That inspired the revolutions against Rome. Loads of people heard about that shit. Loads of people heard about Jesus Christ. They heard about this big struggle that happened in Assyria, the center of the world at the time. Like, you gotta remember that in the region of Lebanon, of Assyria, back in them days, was where the foundations of law, as we have perceived it for the last fucking, what is it? Was it like 3 or 4 millennia? Like, millennia is 1,000 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's about 3 or 4 millennia. Either way, Lebanon in Assyria is where our foundation of legal knowledge comes from, how we can scribe and look at laws from both a moral and a socioeconomic standpoint. Even in the Roman era, the Romans founded themselves around Lebanon, but Lebanon was like this before Rome. They predate Rome in this importance as a part of Assyria. Assyria is one of the most culturally significant parts of the world. Like, people can talk about Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. They can talk about North Africa, the birthplace of humanity, but not many people talk about the importance of Assyria. It's where Christ fucking comes from. But no one talks about where Christ comes from as Assyria. They talk about where Christ comes from as what's it, Israel, which is not the case. He comes from Assyria. He's Assyrian. Black as black could be.
Yeah.
As a lot of Assyrian people, actually, as well, a lot of early Arab people were much darker than a lot of Arabic people are today. It's that region of the world has always been very dark. I mean, the Trans-Caucasus is sort of where things typically lightened up a bit, but as you can tell with Georgian people and other people of that Trans-Caucasian bloc, they're not white like a Ukrainian or white like a Russian.
I can,
Wait.
yep, and
Wait.
and I can. Yep.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you mean Moppin is wrong and that Georgia doesn't belong to Russia?
Yeah, it doesn't belong to Russia. Georgia is fucking occupied by Russia. A lot of their land has been annexed.
Right.
And then like everyone's like, oh, but Georgian terrorism. It's like, yeah, why is Georgian terrorism existing? Because the land's being occupied. I've seen the fucking videos from Georgia where these Georgian farmers are talking about it, and they're like, at the end of the day, I'm not a big the Georgian farmer will turn around and go, at the end of the day, he's not a big fan of what's going on with the terrorism against the Russians, but turns around and says, what do they expect? What's gonna happen? You come in here, you take our land, you threaten and kill our people. What is going to happen next?
Yeah, they've engaged in something called borderization, where they just keep moving border post upward every, like, I think it was like almost every day or something for a while, and they just kept like
It's a settler colonial
stealing
tactic.
more
It's
and
what Israel does to
yeah,
Palestine.
yeah, basically that's exactly what I was thinking of. And there's no
Right.
way you could justify this shit. There's no fucking way anybody
And so the way
like
that they do it as well is they don't just do it in like official military way. They will do that in cities, in farms. They don't go and knock on the farmer's door and tell them to move off. They just start killing part of their livestock and start burning their fields. They scare them off. Mercenary level shit, like, and they will hire groups to terrorize people. You know, out in the countryside, that's when you start seeing the fields burning and bodies mounting because they can
as
get away
Caleb
with shit
as
there.
Caleb or as Caleb would say, that's very progressive of Russia to do.
They're building the productive forces by burning down the agrarian forces. They're bringing an end. They're bringing an end to the peasantry.
That's
These
one way to
people
do
are
it.
psychopaths that we're dealing with. Like, to be honest, I don't like saying that because it's disrespectful to people who suffer with psychological health problems, and I feel really bad for it. But these people are like, I don't know what the word is for it. There needs to be like a word for lunatic.
Sociopath?
Like lunatic,
I
I
think
think is the one that should be called. Separate psychopath and lunatic from each other. These people are lunatics. They're not psychopaths. They're lunatics. I don't want to disregard people with bad psychological health. These people are lunatics.
Yeah.
I think the term is sociopath because I think it's different from
Sociopath,
psychopath.
that
These
would be
people
the
are
one. Yeah, sociopath.
yeah.
I get
It
the
sounds
two
like to
mixed up.
me. It sounds like to me that Caleb's a blankist by the look of it.
There was a bunch of anti-Semites who supported the Bolsheviks. There was
Oh
graffiti
yeah, I
about
just
the
posted
revolution
that.
by Bolshevik supporters. Yeah, no, that's the
Yeah.
anti-Semites that supported Trotsky. Trotsky was an anti-Semite.
Right.
Oh my god. Oh, that wasn't the Bolsheviks, that was Trotsky. Trotsky was an anti-Semite, and so was his followers. Trotsky went around destroying Jewish fucking synagogues and monuments and attacked the Bundists. Trotsky is an anti-Semite through and through. Nothing good about that motherfucker.
Which is why Caleb wore a shirt that basically said "Read Trotsky." So hey, come full circle.
What is this implying here? Is he's turning around and saying? Because he goes, "We don't encourage it. My position is clear." He's saying though that these people should be allowed to work with them. That's what he's doing. He's inviting the door. He's like, you know, Bolsheviks now,
Yeah.
so to work with
Haas
them. No,
approves
they
it.
didn't. Stalin specifically said anti-Semites should be shot, and there was a law in the Soviet Union under Stalin.
And Lenin too, by the way.
There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people should remember Lenin is Mongolian Jewish as well as Russian.
Yeah, he's like yeah. Yeah, he's like part Mongolian, part Russian, part Jewish, part Swede, part
because there's no such thing as a Jewish ethnicity. There's ethnicities that are tied to the Jewish culture, but there's no Jewish ethnicity. Jewry is a religious cultural phenomenon, not an ethnic one. So Ashkenazim, he's Ashkenazim, Mongolian, and
German and Swedish.
Oh,
yeah.
You say Kurdish?
What?
Did you say Kurdish then?
No. I said German and Swedish as well.
German and Swedish. Ew. Well, nothing wrong with being German, but the Swedes can get fucked. So I have a bit of Norwegian blood in me, so I just have to get angsty with the Swedes every now and then. I swear as well, like, what's it? SMG John is Swedish, I think, so I can get at him. I think he's Swedish, I don't fucking know. He's something German, and I because of the Vikings, I have like long distant bit of Norwegian blood, so I can just start going off with people. I did it as a joke to Jason. I'm like, if I've got a bit of Norwegian blood and you're Sami, does that mean I have to start bullying you? I mean, the Swedes got them more than the Norwegians did, so I only have to do it lightly. I mean,
Yeah,
I keep
people
getting
from
referred to as British by these fucking Americans, and then it's like, no, I'm not British, I'm English. No such thing as British people. Like, if they're gonna keep believing that type of horseradish, they're projecting racist culture that needs to be destroyed rather than dealing with the situation honestly. You'll never see me identify as a British communist because I'm not British, I'm English. And actually, if you go 3 or 4 generations back, there's on my mummy Marge's side, there's a bit of Scottish, a bit of Irish going on there. And the fact that a lot of me Marge's side is Liverpudlian, which is more Cymric than it is English. Cymric is what is Cumbrian. Basically, because of their close interaction with with people of Cymru, they're basically a mix of Cymru and Cumbrian, and it's why the Cumbrian culture somewhat managed to survive a lot in that region because of their interaction with the what to make it easier, Cymru is what people wrongly call Wales. So when I say Cymric, it's Welsh. So because of their interaction with the Welsh, they kept some of their Brittonic culture. Um, so it's not just that there's the Cymric in Liverpool, it's also that it's part of the Cumbrian region of Britain, which is from Merseyside. I can't remember whether it goes all the way up to Scotland or whether it stops just north of Yorkshire, but it's that it's west of like west of Northumbria. Like Northumbria is an Anglo-Saxon region. It was originally an Angle settlement, and they had close interactions with the Celts for a bit. That's why actually there was a distinguishment between the southern and the northern Anglo-Saxons, is because the northern Anglo-Saxons did not have a problem with their Celtic neighbours like the southern Anglo-Saxons had a problem with all Celts. So it made a disparity and it created a civil war. Well, I say civil war, I say more like a load of inter-Anglo conflicts. They weren't really a united nation. Civil war's not really the right word. Let's just say that the Normans who dominated the region, they committed genocide culturally against both the Northern English and the Celts. They just committed more of one against the Celts than they did against the Northern English. It was more imperative that they crush the Celts because of the distinction between them and the majority of English people in the south comparative to just the more Germanic English of the north. But they did all they could to crush the Germanic nature of the north as well, because the old Germanic culture had ties and relationships to the old Celtic culture, so they had to try and distinctify themselves with Latin so that they could become Roman. They could become distinct from it all. So the existence of the Germanic culture in the north became as threatening to them as the existence of the Celtic culture in the north. And actually, that's why you'll see in the north of Britain, you see the more Germanic sides of the Anglo-Saxon culture crop up. Viking culture is quite common to crop up in a lot of people's family history and what they see to their family cultural heritage and Celtic culture. Where the fuck's calling me? Deal with that in a bit.
Hopefully, it wasn't certain somebody spying on us. Something.
What happened?
What was that?
Oh, I thought you said something for a moment.
Oh, I'm just, I heard something go off. I was wondering if I
Oh, I
connected
see.
again for the. 100th time.
It's just me mom ringing me. I'm just telling her I'm busy right now. But I guess considering we've just gone completely off topic, because I mean, it basically is sort of these streams. We go through it all, we fly off topic, and then I gallantly sort of bring things back. So, well, normally Dr. Nova helps with that, but he's gone. Or he's in the chat actually. Sorry, he's in the chat, but he is gone to bed now. Oh yeah, no, sorry, I have to get some stream. I'll catch the rest of the stream later. He's gone to bed now. There is a little
I
difference
see.
between Trotskyists and Dengists. They are literally the same. Well, yeah, Dengists are just Trotskyists that have had more achievement in um, implementing their fascistic shit because of the existence of China.
Right.
And China's not
And
the
that,
only
and that,
country that's implementing those policies. But
yeah, and that takes us right back to gangoids in China.
I mean, so the really important thing to take from this stream and everything related to it, is that fucking what's it? The the situation is that we're dealing with an empire that is gonna be the next big thing in imperialism. We're not just dealing with some empire that is dealing with some oppression abroad and oh well they don't have slaves like the British and the Americans did 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 150 years ago, 100 years ago. You know, like it's not like that. It's not like the caste system that Britain used in India to keep slaves up until the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
But why is it not like that? Imperialism has evolved and changed. So the US used these excuses back in its day to try and push itself over the British. Oh, we don't have slaves like the British still does. The British preach to us about us having slaves all the time. And look at them, they still got India in a caste system. We should be in charge of India. Like that was the shit they were pushing. Um, this game people are playing with China is the same bullshit. At the end of the day,
Right.
if we're being pushed to not criticize stuff through fear of being called racist when this situation is oppressing the most racially oppressed groups of China and is oppressing Africa, we are committing to. I mean, the silence is genocide thing is a perfect thing to have on my screen while I'm doing this because it is similar to this situation where we're committing to a form of silence that is oppressive to these people that can indeed lead to genocidal acts like the cultural genocide that is going on in China, the mass abuse of people abroad through its imperialist empire. And I'm not saying the US doesn't do this. Everyone will be jumping to be like, oh, well, the US does this, the US does that. Fucking no one said the US didn't do shit. No one has said anything about the US. But why hasn't anyone said anything about China? And it really climbs into the situation of it doesn't matter that I don't give a fuck that you're trying to silence people and silence me, and I'm gonna say it, but the fact that everyone else does, it creates a wall of silence. It creates something that's hard to shout over because the silence becomes loud.
Yep.
I think that's a good way to end on. It's basically, we can't be afraid to say the truth, even if, we get shouted down by these fucking dangoids who simply want to continue imperialism through a different form.
Right.
They're looking at China and they're saying this can help maintain imperialism. And I think above even just the Americanism that they promote, I think that's really what they want. Above even that is just this imperialist system to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Basically, like, yeah, I agree there. Like China isn't even social imperialist. It's just imperialist now. I know that Hoja called Deng a fascist at some point. And I mean it's worse now. I mean, look at Xi Jinping. You got literally like a class collaboration party filled with billionaires and millionaires. Um, what else can be added to that? I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not even social democracy either. So it's worse than that.
Yeah, and who was the guy who was the founder of the guy who led the 1910 revolution? Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen and Mao Zedong and Lin Biao, all of them, they're rolling in their graves right now. Or with Mao, he's rolling in his
And people
mausoleum
should
right
know
now.
as well that Trotsky was the one who fucking did so much damage to that 1905 revolution in China
Yeah,
and the struggle in 1915 that they attempted as well.
And also Trotskyist
And
collaborated.
1925.
Oh yeah, 1925. Yeah, Trotskyists also collaborated with the Japanese too, but that's something that's also written out of the history books.
And they
Chinese
collaborated with the
Trotsky.
Flange in Spain against the Bolsheviks and the
Communists.
yeah,
Spanish anarchists. And the anarchists have tried to say this for a long time, but Leninists don't like to listen. They just like to go on in long, strong sentences that tell you that they know everything with the immortal science. There's no such thing as immortal science. What do you mean immortal science? Science is fluid. It's somewhat that's a learning curve. Immortal.
right.
Some
Here.
The knowledge of the universe
Oh,
is
you could
is,
go.
is essentially unlimited. Like it's not something we're ever going to grasp the whole of. And anyone who believes that we can grasp the whole of it is on fucking crack.
Yeah, I mean, we have a limited lifespan, so by definition, we literally can't know everything. By very definition.
Not to insult anyone on crack who might actually have smarter ideas than this. I do apologize. This is just to be honest. They're not on that. What they're on is the drug of being an aristocrat. Turns people into fucking lunatics.
Oh, get it. Arista crack.
A wista twat. I can't do my ass properly, so I went a wista twat. Fuck it.
I think, I think that's a good.
It's okay if I. Oh, you could go first. Don't worry.
I think that's a good way to end on perfectly. But yeah.
I see.
What you got
I
me?
was just gonna say, is it okay if I read these two paragraphs from Hoja about China towards the end? Um,
What specific period? Because I just wanna.
we're talking about 1977. This is like,
Okay, so this is
this is
like,
basically like
this
the Deng era. Yeah,
Angoids are about taking over.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll just read. Yeah. The policy of the Chinese leaders does not enjoy the sympathy and the support of the peoples, but on the contrary, will lead China to ever greater isolation from the progressive states and the world proletariat. No people, no proletariat, or revolutionaries can support China's policy. When they see former German Nazi generals, former Japanese militarist generals, and admirals, Portuguese fascist generals, etc., standing beside the Chinese generals on the Tiananmen Tribune, as happened on the National Day, October 1977, China cannot go ahead with its course of transforming itself into a superpower without intensifying the exploitation of the broad working masses at home. The United States of America and the other capitalist states will seek to secure super profits from the capital they will invest there. They will also press for rapid and radical transformations of the base and superstructure of Chinese society in the capitalist direction. The intensification of the exploitation of the multi-million strong masses to maintain the Chinese bourgeoisie and the gigantic bureaucratic apparatus and to meet the repayment of the credits and the interest to the foreign capitalists will undoubtedly give a rise to deep contradictions between the Chinese proletariat and the peasantry on the one hand and the bourgeois revisionist rulers on the other. This will bring the latter into confrontation with the working masses of their own country, a thing which cannot fail to lead to sharp conflicts and revolutionary outbursts in China. End quote.
Let me put on my Boston accent right here. I mean, no, not a Boston accent. It would be like a New York, Brooklyn accent. Hey, look at Nostradamus over here. Yeah. Basically, he pretty much predicted like what China turned into. Or
Right.
as Caleb would
The new
say,
empire.
he's either or as Caleb would call Hoja in that quote, a synthetic leftist or
Ultra-left
ultra
moment.
leftist, or ultra left,
Right.
synthetic left, whatever the term is today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was amazing. I'm gonna post the link in the here as well, just in case anybody wants to read the whole thing. I thought it was really amazing those last two paragraphs. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully YouTube doesn't delete the link because it does that a lot.
Yeah, I learned that
Oh, I see.
firsthand.
You can always pop it in the general chat on the server. Hopefully
Yep.
people start to join
Oh
the
yeah.
server more.
I'll put it there then.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a Discord server.
Right.
It's in one of them
Yeah.
special links for people who don't know. It's in one of them special links on the top of the screen when you're on your YouTube things. There's a Discord server.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything other to add, other than fuck Dangoids and fuck Mappa.
Yeah. Fuck Dangoids. Fuck Xi Jinping and fuck Pat Socks for sure.
Got hair fucking going. Like my hair curled up my nose and it tickling it and it's really making it fucking itchy. Yeah. What's it? The door on talking about the issues of China needs to be open, just like talking of the issues of any nation. It's racism to silence these issues, not the other way around. Because by silencing these issues, we're not able to talk about the real
Right.
problems of things like cultural genocide and colonialism and other integrated problems regarding these systems and nations and how they operate and function themselves. And like that brilliant ending with Enver Hoxha,
Mm-hmm.
the distinct thing he's pointing out is that China, no matter what it thinks, if it's going down this path to build its superpower, it will become a builder of super profits for the major imperialist powers, just like how the British utilized its empire in this fashion. But that super profits is
Right.
eventually going to be utilized by this mass, this big country nation that's got this to do this big support network to build the eventual big bourgeoisie of China.
Yeah.
That big bourgeoisie is eventually going to exert itself out as an oppressor of the world. And this is the world we're in. Like, people need to wake up. It's not sectarian to be anti-Dengist. It is not sectarian to be anti-fucking China. I don't want to fucking hear that shit anymore from people. It's stupid. That's not sectarian because they're not communists.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I got crisps all over my hand. We've upped the stream quantities again. I've got 2 going in day consecutivity. Fucking, I'm almost as cool as Caleb Moppin. So Catch your dinguses in the next one. Red salute, motherfuckers, and um, remember to say motherfucker a lot if you're in New York.
Well, I'm not, so I'll just end with the very slow, kind of very low energy salute that I like to say. Red salute.
In New York, you gotta say motherfucker.
Mother. Hey.
I'm walking here.
Peace out. Hey, I'm walking here, man. All right, get out of here. I'm from Philadelphia. All right, peace, everybody.
Respect people.